Wolf back. What is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street. RotoStreetJournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves here with Week 8, the fantasy midpoint. Somehow we are halfway done with the season, ladies and gentlemen. So we got to make sure we are continuing forward with those wins. And of course, I'm going to do my very best to give you all the news you need to know, about 15, 20 minutes or so. And then we'll hit all of your questions and try to knock those out of the park, Wolfpack. So come on in, get those coffees ready, get yourself ready for a massive, massive win. It seems like I've seen Fatty Mateo. He's facing his nemesis. Tons of good stuff here. Let's dive right in, folks, to the Week 8 Thursday Night Football takeaways as the audience is building. And as you are getting settled in, if you enjoy what you're hearing at any point, that thumbs up button is so greatly appreciated. And all of these rankings that I will be referencing throughout the show can be found at rotostreetjournal.com, free for you guys. Thank you again so much for being here. I believe they are also linked in the description here as well. Talking about Thursday Night Football, the absolute smashing of the Minnesota Vikings getting destroyed 37-10, big bounce back game from the Chargers. Herbert, solid fantasy day, 227 yards, 3 scores through the air, did have an interception. The big thing with him, as he continues to do, 62 yards on the ground. He said he wanted to play more like Josh Allen. We talked about in the draft guide and throughout our shows how he has athleticism on par, if not better, than Josh Allen in terms of their combine testing numbers, and we are seeing it on display so far this year. If I'm not mistaken, I think Justin Herbert actually leads the NFL in rushing yards. Sure, that extra game probably helped him get there, but it is impressive what this guy is doing with his legs this year. Greg Roman talked about it, him not being fully healthy. He is right up there in that elite, like top 6 quarterbacks because that Konami upside has now been unlocked for Justin Herbert. His main targets, though, and it is tricky to sift through because you had 3 big mouths to feed in terms of Ladd, Keenan, and Quentin, and now you add King Oronde Gadsden, us loyal servants to the King Oronde Gadsden II. 5 targets, 5 catches, 77 yards, and a TD. If you had to nitpick and complain, it all came in the first half. I mean, it was looking like a 35, 40-point day from King Gadsden. But still, this guy, we hyped him up in the draft guide out of Syracuse, 5th-round draft pick. I don't know how he fell that far with that tweener style. Too big of a slot receiver, too small of a tight end. He is such a natural pass catcher. Very rare for college tight ends to put up 900 yards in a single season. He did it twice. I believe he's the only person other than Brock Bowers to put up 950 or more yards in 2 seasons over at Syracuse. He is an absolute stud. We talked about him a lot on the Thursday show, and in most of the cases, we did say to go with Oronde, although there was a handful of other ones out there that we might have said, in this case, go Dallas Goedert, those type of things. But still, if you have Gadsden, top 6 tight end rest of the season, maybe even better. We know Greg Roman loves peppering those tight ends. Ladd McConkey led the way with 10 targets, 6 catches, 88 yards, and a score. A big night for him, which means there was just not much left for the picking with Keenan Allen, just 4 catches, 44 yards, still significantly better than Quentin Johnston. My good Lord. Not a catch, not a target in this game. The dreaded dash on Yahoo. Is there anything worse? A 0 going into your weekend. I have him clearly in my lineup, if you can hear the shift in my tone here. You just watch that fester like an infected wound all week, the 0 just staring you in the face, knowing you could have done literally anybody else and it would have been better than this. Not a single target for the guy. Brutal, back-to-back weeks with very low targets. Last week, he did end up getting to the end zone and kind of salvaged the day, but it was a pretty sketchy finish there where he only got 5 targets compared to 14 for Keenan Allen, 11 for Ladd, more to Oronde Gadsden. It's trending all the wrong ways here for Quentin Johnston. If you decide to hate cut him, I wouldn't blame you. I probably would stick on here, though, just in case there's an injury or if he can refine that mojo. Because, man, he was a top 10 wide receiver for the first 4 weeks. He was number 5 in fantasy scoring. I'm not ready to quite give up yet, but I do think it's going to be a lot more. And this is what we kind of expected from Quentin Johnston. It seemed like he was bucking the trend, but we've known he's boom or bust. And it seemed like he had found his way into the number 1 receiver role for so long, those first 5 weeks. It has disappeared since he got hurt and since Oronde Gadsden really started to take over. Trey Harris did also catch a touchdown, could have gone to Quentin Johnston. The other thing with Johnston, too, is there was at least 3 or 4 plays where he was just streaking down the field wide open. Why Herbert wasn't uncorking it to him, why he wasn't looking his way, I don't know. But hopefully they watch the tape and see, like, look at this guy. He is wide open. You could have had a 60-yard touchdown. So it sucks. A kick to the nads, no doubt about it. But ultimately, let's hold off before we go too crazy on overreacting. But I am furious. Probably the other big story other than Gadsden, though, was Kamani Vidal. 23 carries, 117 yards, and the touchdown there. Also caught a couple balls, one ball for 10 yards. They ran the ball 40 times here in this game. 23 of them did go to Kamani Vidal. 11 went to Patterson, but that was all in mop-up duty when they were up by 3 scores. Vidal really did look very solid. It sounds like the latest report on Hampton was he was still in a walking boot as of this game. And so they have their bye week coming up, I believe, in 9, if not 10. The rumblings are that they were hoping Hampton would be ready, but now it's looking like it might take more time. The Viking side of things, there's really not a whole lot to dissect here. Wentz, 144, touchdown, intercepted. He was getting beat up all night. He was in tears on the bench. It looks like this guy's probably done. And it does sound like J.J. McCarthy will be trending towards coming back in. He looked really bad in his first few starts, but it can't be much worse than what we just saw from Carson Wentz. So hopefully J.J. can find some of that magic that made him a top 5 overall pick there for the Vikings. Addison caught a touchdown yet again, looking solid. Jefferson led the way with those 11 targets, 7 catches, 74 yards. Hawkinson just about dead, 2 catches, 26 yards. What a bust he has been. I think the bigger note is in this running game. Jordan Mason, he's been like a mediocre running back too. He had that monster day against the Bengals like everybody does. They somehow give up more points to running backs than even the Miami Dolphins, who everybody smashes. Somehow, Jordan Mason, other than that, though, he's kind of like 10-ish, 12-ish points. He was fine. He was serviceable. Aaron Jones walks right back and immediately takes over the snap load. And I get it. This was definitely the game flow for Aaron Jones to lead the way here. But 15 yards on the ground for Aaron Jones, 5 carries compared to 4 carries and 3 yards. Neither one of these guys was usable, but when Mason was at least consolidating all the work, you could be like, okay, he'll probably find the end zone. He might get 40 yards, touchdown. It's kind of off the table at this point, and certainly I'd be benching Jordan Mason unless it is a clear heavy favorite or a very good run D matchup. Maybe you can flex him, but neither of these guys seem very viable. All righty, Wolfpack. That wraps up the takeaways for the Thursday night football games. Thank you so much for listening to those. Hopefully they help you out. If you think I missed anything, please do let me know. We're going to now get through all of the Week 8 news. There's not too much today, so we should be able to whip through this really quickly. If you need to get in and out, though, the Super Chat is a way to cut the line, get ahead, but a free way to help your guy with 350 of you right off the jump here, 7 minutes in. That thumbs up button, the like on Twitter, the likes, the shares, the retweets, all of that good stuff is so greatly appreciated. So please do consider hitting that thumbs up button. And if you do want to cut the line or support your boy, that Super Chat is a way to do it. And thank you so much. You guys have been so generous all season, and it is so greatly appreciated. Let's talk about, though, the Week 8 quarterback news headlined by, of course, Lamar Jackson. Everything trending towards him returning to the lineup. And then some sort of mismanagement Saturday afternoon. Who knows? It comes out that he is going to miss this game, unfortunately. As a Lamar Jackson owner, this is mind-numbing to me. There's all these reports of mishandling, his overworking him all. It's just awful. Stinks for him, stinks for the entire offense. Tyler Huntley will be taking over, so that should be better than Cooper Rush. Still shouldn't be great. So Zay Flowers took a big hit in my rankings. I didn't like Mark Andrews anyways, and I certainly don't like him anymore than right now, Mr. Fat and Useless himself. So, yeah, not good for the Ravens, and I'm going with the Bears in this game. My man Krana out there, if you're tuned in. I think you guys take down the Ravens, which I guess is not that. They're 1-5, but you'd think they'd figure out a way to get their stud quarterback back out there. Then we got Jayden Daniels. He is going to be out. We know this. I like Marcus Mariota. So if you're scrambling for a replacement for Lamar Jackson at last minute, I do think Marcus Mariota is about as good as it gets on the waiver wire. He has that Konami upside. He's been a top 14 quarterback in both his starts so far this year and dating back to last year. That trend also was out there. I've seen Fields dropped in a lot of leagues, and a note we're about to talk about is that Tyrod Taylor is actually going to be out this week. And so even though this team wants to get away from Fields, they might have no choice. Now, granted, it's not a guarantee that Fields starts, so we're going to have to watch that one up to kickoff. But facing the Bengals, that is a pathetic run defense. Even without Garrett Wilson, I could see Fields running for 100-plus yards on that defense. So if you need a quarterback streamer, he could be the one for you. We'll keep going with that quarterback news, but Luis Perez hitting us with a super chat. Thank you so much, Luis. You consistently come in here and help your boy out. So we will let you cut the line, good sir, and answer this for you. Start Mariota, Cousins, Fields. Need 2 RJ, Tajay, Manungai. All righty. So, Lewis, this is a perfect segue because we're talking about quarterbacks. We're talking about the streamers you need. I would rank them Fields, then Mariota, then Cousins. Now, granted, Cousins, they're all interesting streamers. And that's the thing. If you lost Lamar, of course you're not going to get Lamar production from any of these three, but they all are in solid enough spots. Fields being the rushing upside against Cincy, that's my favorite option. But again, Lewis, just confirm that he's actually in and starting because this team might turn it over to like the third string guy. Aaron Glenn seems very upset. The owner seems very upset about Justin Fields these days. I would then go to Mariota because, again, the leg points, the upside, they're facing the Chiefs. They should need points. And we've just seen him produce at a solid level every time he's started. And it looks like he runs the offense, certainly not at Jayden Daniels level, but it's not a massive step down either to Marcus Mariota. It sounds like Terry and Debo will be back in as well. So he's got some good weapons chasing points against the Chiefs offense that's really found its gear after a couple of years of just horrendous play. So I like Fields, then Mariota, and then Cousins, who is also in a good spot against Miami that's getting absolutely just completely and utterly battered over the air, through the ground, mostly, though. And I do think this is a game where if they don't have to throw it once, if Bijan Robinson can just knife through this entire defense, which he can, like a knife through hot butter, baby, hot knife through butter, we're going to see Bijan just destroying them. Maybe Cousins does have that one of those, like, I'm back on the field legacy games, checks out and throws a bunch of touchdowns. I don't necessarily buy that, though, myself. So I would rank them Fields, then Mariota, and then Cousins, again, in a good spot, high floor, probably will throw 2-ish touchdowns. I wonder what his odds are there. I know my brother likes to do 2 touchdown bets. I think Cousins would be an interesting one to toss into that one today. But I ultimately just think they're going to pound them so well on the ground that it's just a capped ceiling. Whereas the other two guys could rush for 60 to 80 yards, and boom, that's a massive, massive leap. Thank you so much, Lewis, for that question. It did fit well with our Week 8 quarterback news as well. Let's get on back to that because we have, again, Tyrod Taylor out and Brock Purdy is out. I do like Mac Jones averaging over 300 passing yards per game. He did take a step back last week, but that was, again, a very good Falcons pass defense, and so I'm not overly concerned with Mac Jones. This is a nice rebound. Now, it is a tough matchup, again, versus the Texans here today. But I think this is National Tight End Day. We get Kittle rolling again. I think Mac Jones, it'll be just fine today. He's my quarterback 17. I do prefer Mariota and Fields to him for whatever that is worth. And then Bryce Young, in terms of other backups potentially available, Andy Dalton, the Red Rifle, will be starting against the Bills. And he always does seem to come out slinging when he pops up for these random few starts here. So I don't think this is a meaningful downgrade, if any type of downgrade, for the weapons here. I'm intrigued, actually, to see what Andy Dalton does here against the Bills. I'd probably have him below all the other quarterbacks, including Kirk Cousins, that we've talked about here today. But another one that, if you're desperate, you're a 2-quarterback league, Superflex, these guys are now lingering out there for you, and I don't mind it one bit. We did have another super chat. Luis Perez with your second of the day. Thank you so much, Luis, for that. Would you drop Tajay to have Bam versus Dallas next week? Oh, great question. Kind of thinking ahead here. I'm trying to think here when Trey Benson went on the IR, because if Trey Benson could come back next week and ruin that, then there's no point. When will Trey Benson? I just gotta double check this one for you. When will Benson return? Come on, this article is like taking forever to tell you when he actually is back. And it doesn't even tell you. Rotoballer, thank you for that useless article. So he was placed on the IR, and that was 4 weeks ago. So I believe, but the bye week might. So let me just look at the game log here. Thank you, Lewis, first, and sorry again for taking so long. It was Seattle. He got hurt, so he's missed 3 games. So Benson will not be back next week. You got one more game of Dallas, or Bam rather, and Dallas is a great matchup. I probably do this move just because you got a tough Colts run D. How much value do we really see Tajay Spears gaining this week relative to the rest of the season? You could probably get by without him on the roster. Granted, if you think you can last this week, doesn't block Luis Perez. The Chiefs apparently, I love that for Tony Pollard's value, apparently interested in him. So I'm not itching to go get rid of Tajay, but if it's like you have to start one of those two next week, I certainly would prefer Bam. I think it's smart to get ahead and not have to bid a ton of fab on it. But if you think he's going to fly under the radar for your league mates, I would be intrigued to see what happens with Tony Pollard. I know nothing will happen today. He's not going to get moved ahead of game time. But I don't love dropping Tajay right now just because of those trade rumors here going on. So unless you're desperate at running back, I would probably hang on to Spears for right now. Start Fields or Rodgers, Packers fan here. I mean, you ready to watch the revenge game of Aaron Rodgers against your team tonight? We see how that one goes. I do think Aaron Rodgers is going to try to put this one on him, and I'm pretty excited to see how he does. I do think I would still go Logan, and thank you so much for the super chat. Here's to that from the jump. I do think I would go with Fields. We've just seen it so many times this year. It is way more boom or bust. So this is one of those ones, and I see like Fatty Mateo, you provide great context here. Whereas like, I'll use him as an example. In one of Fatty Mateo's situations, he says, I'm a 70-30 underdog. I go for Fields there. I go for the 30-plus point upside that we've already seen multiple times this year in the right matchups. This is the right matchup. Cincinnati is a horrendous run defense. He should be able to knife right through him. If you're a 60-40 favorite, though, and you just need, like, I want my quarterback to get me 15 points this week, I want to feel good about it, then I do like Aaron Rodgers in that situation. I do think he would be a much safer play because he's going to want to throw a bunch of touchdowns on his former team, a little revenge game narrative here for Aaron Rodgers, and he's the exact type of pettiness to go for big in that type of game. So I do like Rodgers to throw for 3-ish tonight. I think it's a nice safe floor, but that is one where it kind of depends on your situation. If it's 50-50, I would be going Aaron Rodgers. If it's your favorite, I'm going Aaron Rodgers. If you're a significant underdog or even an underdog at all, though, I do think Fields outscores him. I think Fields has himself a big day. So I know that I hope it's not too wishy-washy for you, Logan. That one is a bit because Fields is that type where if you're a favorite and then suddenly you get 0 from him and then you're an underdog by a big shot, you can't have that. But if you need the injection of upside, I do think Fields would make some sense there. But just make sure he's starting too, because there is some rumblings that the team is very disappointed in him. Who would wonder why? But ultimately, they could potentially move to even their third string at some point. But I would probably go Fields in most cases, again, unless I'm like a solid favorite, a 60-40 type of favorite right now. And then I might just play it safe with Rodgers. Let me know what you go with, Logan, though. Great question. Thank you so much for your support and your super chat as well. And then we are on to the running back. Thank you again. 700 here at the 15-ish minute mark. Thank you so much. Free way to help your boy is that thumbs up, the heart button, the likes, the shares, the retweets. It all helps us out so much. The only running back, and maybe I'm missing some news here, but the only note I had was that Breece Hall is questionable, so we are still watching that. It is against the Bengals, so that's a phenomenal spot for Breece Hall or Isaiah Davis or whoever else would potentially make that start. It sounds like Hall, after having limited Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday practices, should be good to go for this game, but just keep watching that. This team is tanking. They might want to trade him, keep him healthy. They end up holding him out type of thing. But otherwise, you got to consider Breece Hall a top 15 running back, no doubt about it, despite this offense looking so dysfunctional, the line looking god-awful. It's just so good against the Bengals. We talked about how Miami is the dream matchup, but the Bengals are actually allowing even more points, including a lot of receiving volume to backs, and Breece Hall should be getting peppered, absolutely peppered in targets today. So I like Breece Hall. That's the only running back note I had. I might be missing an injury or two. So let me know if you guys think there's something else I need to talk to at the running back position. Otherwise, we got Drake London oddly downgraded late last night with a hip injury. And so he was not on the injury report and then added. A little bit of concern, something to monitor. I do believe that's a 1:00 game. And so at least we'll know by kickoff. But if you are a Drake London owner, maybe Darnell Mooney's still out there in 70-ish% of leagues right now. Find yourself a backup plan either way, just to be safe, just to be ready in case he is not active. I would have said Tez Johnson would be my favorite backup play, but he's now owned in 57%, it looks like, of Yahoo leagues. So he still might be out there for you. I love the streaming Tez Johnson this week. I think he will be a great play. Love him at plus 350 to score a touchdown as well. A.J. Brown not playing in Philly's game. He is out. The tumultuous season continues for Mr. A.J. Brown. Not pretty here with how that one is going. And so Devonta Smith right into my top 7 wide receivers, just fresh off 184 yards on the day, 9 catch. And the Giants are giving up the 3rd most points to wide receivers. This is a smash spot for Mr. Devonta Smith, who's only 5,900. He will be very, very popular on DraftKings, I imagine, today, but for good reason. Also does boost up Dallas Goedert, who was removed from the injury report as well. Nico Collins and Christian Kirk both out. So it should be the Iowa State wide receiver elevation, Jalen Noel, and, of course, Jayden Higgins, their 2nd and 3rd round picks. But we've seen Xavier Hutchinson lead this team in snaps. We've seen Braxton Berrios mix in for kind of capping the upside there. I do think Noel in that slot role, a little more high percentage. If I had to pick one of these two to get into my lineups, I do think I'd go Jalen Noel here. He's fresh off a 77-yard day. But ultimately, both him and Higgins, very exciting wide receiver prospects. Loved them both out of Iowa State. And if you're desperate for a wide receiver plug-in, we just talked about, again, having a backup plan for Drake London in case he surprisingly ruled out, or maybe you did lose Collins or Christian Kirk, and go to the teammates. I do think the Texans will need some points against the 49ers here today. Their offense does look inept. CJ Stroud looks god-awful this year and last year. Rookie year mirage, it would seem to be here. But yeah, I would lean into Noel, then Higgins if I had to get to this Texans wide receiver situation. Let me know if you have a Texans wide receiver question. We had Terry McLaurin and Debo both off the injury report, it would seem, for Monday Night Football, getting full practices in this week. I believe they're still listed as questionable, but the full practices, first time for McLaurin since week 2. Debo looking much better, and it does stink that, yeah, it's Mariota throwing him the rock, but this is a good Chiefs run defense. This is a team that's probably going to be chasing points. I love getting both Debo and Terry right back into my lineups. In particular, Debo has looked phenomenal all year, but I imagine Terry wants to get it going. He showed a good rapport last year with Marcus Mariota as well. We got Ricky Pearsall ruled out yet again with his knee injury, somehow still lingering. Brutal wide receiver injury season for the 49ers. Some reinforcements potentially on the way in Brandon Ayuk. They opened up his 21 practice window, or they plan to rather, next week. So a few weeks away from Brandon Ayuk, that could be a nice boost. I've seen him lingering in a bunch of leagues, so this would be the time to get ahead, scoop him, especially if you have an IR spot. There's leagues with IR spots that are just going unused. It makes no sense to me at all. But Ricky Pearsall out again. Kendrick Bourne, I know he flopped last week, but he still has his boy Mac Jones at QB. This was a report, back-to-back 140-yard days. I'm not going to completely give up here on Kendrick Bourne. He's right back into, I'll just pull up exactly where I have him in terms of my wide receiver rankings. I know I did bump him up a handful of spots last night. Wide receiver 30, +9 ECR. I do have Tez Johnson a spot higher. I rank it like Romeo Dobbs, Tez Johnson, Kendrick Bourne, for those of you trying to keep score over here. But ultimately, I would be happy to go right back to Bourne. It's not a great matchup. I still think he is the clear top guy for Mac Jones. Granted, Kittle, maybe he starts to emerge. It's not nearly the smash play of a couple weeks ago. We had a week where there was not even Juwan Jennings, but then he did return and Bourne still smashed. But now Kittle's back, and that throws another massive wrench into things here. But I still do like him. Like I said, +9 ECR, could absolutely be down to stream some Kendrick Bourne this week. And then last few notes here, Tyreek Hill said whether he wants to retire or not will be based on how I feel. Yay. That sounds consistent for you dynasty leaguers out there. I can't imagine he's going to feel too good. That was a brutal injury, dislocated kneecap, ligaments torn. Absolutely brutal. So there was talk that he was so motivated to come back. Now the talk is, we'll see how I feel. I don't know. And then Josh Downs, he will be playing this week. A little bit of a hit to Alec Pierce's streaming upside. Both these guys, though, solid enough options here. Now, Downs did get stymied by this defense last time out for just 34 yards. But his last game out, we had 6 catches, 80-ish yards, if I'm not mistaken, and a touchdown. I love Josh Downs. I think he's a very solid player, and I like him here. Packers did activate Christian Watson from the PUP, a nice stash ahead of tonight's game. For those of you in some deep leagues, love the player. Multiple seasons ago, he's been so inconsistent and banged up, but we've seen glimpses of absolute greatness where he was the wide receiver 3 for a span. His rookie season was going absolutely bananas with Aaron Rodgers. So we've seen the upside of this guy. He is getting activated, and really Golden's been underwhelming. Jaden Reed's banged up. Could be right into a role here for Christian Watson. I wouldn't start him, no doubt about that. There's no way I'm putting him in my lineup, but certainly an intriguing bench addition. Last receiver note is Josh Reynolds will be out and Josh Palmer will be out, but none of you were considering them, but maybe, again, in deep leagues, Arian Smith. He ran 98% of the routes last week, or 92 rather. That might be the number one guy. They did take him in, I believe, round 3. Yeah, I don't want to play him, but against the Bengals, a bad defense, if you're desperate, it could be there. Something could hit there. Speaking of pass catchers for them, the only tight end note I did have was Mason Taylor is questionable. Something to monitor. It was added on Thursday because this is a juicy, juicy spot. No team giving up more points than the Bengals so far. 2 tight ends on this year. It's an absolute smash spot for Taylor, and there's nobody really in for him to contend with. So for DFS purposes or for desperation tight end streaming purposes, I do really, really like Mason Taylor today. Sauce Gardner also being out in that game on the defensive side of things. That helps out Jamar Chase. That helps out the Bengals significantly. Joe Flacco. All those guys will have a much higher ceiling. And Trayvon Diggs is on the injured reserve as well for the Cowboys. And that wraps up, ladies and gentlemen, well ahead of the 30-minute mark. Love to see it. That wraps up all of our news that we wanted to cover. If you think I missed anything or anything you want me to make sure to hit, please do let me know. I was searching for news this morning and just did not find anything really new compared to last night. So if there's anything you think I overlooked, please do let me know. We are getting on to all of your questions. We did just get a super chat. Thank you so much. Cody Welsh. Start the Steelers or Kansas City defense, Terry or Smith? I would go here, Kansas City defense myself. I do think the Steelers defense is quite bad. They're giving up the second most schedule-adjusted points to quarterbacks. They're not getting a high pressure rate. I think that game becomes a fun little shootout tonight, actually, on Sunday Night Football. I think the Steelers are going to want to chuck it with Aaron Rodgers, let him get his revenge game. And then ultimately, we get a back-and-forth little battle here. They're giving up a ton of big plays, though, all leading me to the Kansas City defense facing Marcus Mariota. They've been stepping their game up these most recent weeks. So I really like Kansas City defense in that spot over the Steelers. In terms of Terry or Smith, which I'm imagining is Devonta Smith, it's got to be Devonta Smith. No A.J. Brown, great matchup against the Giants, fresh off a 180-yard day. Terry, I'm intrigued to get him back in my lineups, but certainly not over a guy that is balling out right now and now has no A.J. Brown. I think it's only been a handful of games, but we've seen Devonta Smith. I think he is a true alpha, just getting stymied right now by the presence of A.J. Brown. Stymied again, 180 yards last week, so not really at all. I love Devonta Smith. He's a top 7 wide receiver for me this week, whereas Terry's in that low 20s range. Let's see him get there. Let's see what Mariota looks like. If I don't have to play Terry, I'm not going to force him in. I'm happy to get him in my lineup in some deeper leagues here. But ultimately, when I have a guy like Devonta Smith, no way. I'm 100% Cody playing Devonta Smith in that one. Thank you so much for the super chat. We got 1,000 of you here with us, Wolfpack. Last week, we hit 4K, which was absolutely amazing. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please do consider helping your boy out. Only 1,000 or so. I'm so happy to have over 1,000 people watching live. That's incredible. But we'd love to continue to get out to 2,000 to 3,000 to 4,000 even like we did last week. And the way we do that is your likes, your shares, your retweets. Please do consider continuing to help your guy out here. All righty. Marvin Pender. Herbert is only missing the rushing. I know he keeps getting all the yards. I keep betting rushing touchdown because he looks so good as a scrambler. And he had one last week that ended up getting called back. It's brutal. It keeps ruining my bet slips because he's always like plus 550, and it seems great on paper. It still hasn't hit. It will for us, Marvin. Sherwood, Lee Avery, Dak or Flacco or Dart. Ooh, great options here. I think Dak is – I know the Denver matchup is sketchy. He's playing at such a good level. We just saw Jackson Dart put up 29. It's not quite as terrifying as it has been in recent years. I'm going to go with Dak and hope we get another one of those like crazy Broncos shootout style games that we've been getting this year. Just Dak is playing at such an MVP level. If you were super worried, I would rank these guys Dak, then Dart, then Flacco. But I like all three. I really do. And I can see the narrative for them all, but I'm going to stick with Dak on that one, playing at an MVP level. I'm going to let that rip, Sherwood. Morning, Droid. Good to see you. Respect the camping out, getting those questions in last night. Lamar is out. Brutal. Start one. Jackson Skywalker. I do love the face paint. You have to be a baller to pull that off, and Dart is a baller. Sleepy Joe Flacco or Fields. I got to go with Jackson Dart on this one. He, again, is just playing at such a high level. Already has a 23-point day against Philly, and that was when he threw for like 190 yards. Coming off, I believe it's the most points the Broncos – I heard this one from Scott Barrett this week. I want to get it right. I don't know the exact numbers, but it was something like the most points Denver has given up to a quarterback, 29.4 in, I believe, like 3 straight seasons now, was Jackson Dart last week. And a lot of it is this rushing upside. Last week, he didn't even have to run to get it done. 283 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. Did also run in for a score. So 29 fantasy points against the Broncos last week. Back-to-back quarterback 3 performances. That's the one I'm going to roll with there, Droid. Fatty Mateo needs help versus the nemesis. Oh, boy. Big rivalry week. Love the bad blood in the air at the midpoint of the season. By Mageddon. Tension's high for Fatty Mateo. Love the context here. 60-40 favorite. Full PPR, start 2 flexes, so we're leaning into the safer plays here. But I got to say, Breece Hall, I got to get in there against Cincy. I know he's not the safest of plays, but assuming he's in, I know he was listed as questionable. I don't know if we ever got an update on that, but it did sound like it wasn't like a true questionable. He was limited in practice. Although, again, Lamar Jackson was limited in practice and seemed like he was trending towards being in, which was absolutely brutal. It does sound like the Jets are going to start Fields, was what Rap Sheet tweeted out this morning as well. So all those Fields questions, we don't have to continue to wonder, are they going to actually go somewhere else? And I do like Fields against the Bengals for some rushing upside today. And so ultimately, it is, I would go Breece Hall, assuming he is in. And both likely to play was the late. Okay, that's the one I was looking for. Likely to play from Rap Sheet. So we're going to go Breece Hall. Waddle versus Kamara. I mean, this is a brutal pass matchup for the crumbling Dolphins. I'm probably going to lean with Kamara on this one. I know Waddle, he really has stepped his game up. He's shown he can be a number 1 wide receiver with Tyreek Hill out. He's been getting peppered. But if you look at what the Falcons are doing to wide receivers, I mean, they are smothering them. So it's been very tough for wide receivers to get anything going against Atlanta. And Tua just like crumbling right now. I got to lean into I'm going down on Waddle a little bit in my rank because I think I had him a little too high here. Meanwhile, you got Alvin Kamara just eating 20-plus carries a week, still catching the ball okay. It's a mediocre offense, but it's gotten some legs here with Olave starting to get going. So to me, especially as a favorite, I'm going to lean into the running backs there. You're going to get at least 30 to 40 combined touches between those two guys. Whereas Waddle, that could just completely combust at any point. Same league, 6-point passing TDs. Dart versus Caleb. I'm a huge Dart fan, but in Philly with 3. I mean, he was the quarterback 3 the last time he faced Philly. And Baltimore, though, giving up the most points. I do have these guys, quarterback 9, quarterback 10, and I have Jackson Dart higher myself. Very tough call, though. And I do think, with that, like you say here too, Fatty Mateo, revenge game potential for the Eagles trying to get back on Jackson Dart, who got that win just a couple weeks ago. I don't know, though. I mean, Jackson Dart is just a baller, in my opinion. I do have Dart a spot higher than Mr. Caleb Williams here. And if I would have felt better about Caleb if we had, of course, on the other side of things, Lamar Jackson making this game environment ripe. Now it's just one of those things where the Bears might just be able to pound the rock all day. This is the number 1 matchup for running backs. Wouldn't surprise me if they just bleed the clock against this team. And so to me, I'm going to go it's tough, quarterback 9-10, but I'm going to go with Jackson Dart there. Different league, full PPR, 70-30 underdog. 7 guys on bye, tough situation. Mason, Schultz, Fannin, Ingram, wherever I start, I will likely have to keep as my number 1 tight end going forward. So if I had to keep one of these guys as my guy, for the season, Fannin is my favorite. Njoku out, trending towards maybe being traded at some point. But if it was just a 1 week thing, I think I got to go with Mason Taylor on that one. The Cincinnati matchup, the best possible matchup you could ask for a tight end. So that makes it a tricky situation here. If it's one you got to keep and you want the most longevity, it is to me Harold Fannin. But if it's just a 1 week rental, I think Mason Taylor as like the number one against a team that cannot defend tight ends seems pretty juicy to me. Rick Morbiz, thank you so much for the super chat. Good sir. He's dumpster diving, flex full PPR for his ultimate flex here. So PPR, Booty or Kyle M, unless I need him for Swift swap in 50-50 projected. So it sounds like you already have Swift in. This is a run defense. The Baltimore Ravens giving up the second most points, even more points to running backs than the horrendous Miami Dolphins here. So this is a spot where you could start both Swift and Kyle Monangai. I think, oh man, though, like I would hate to have them both in, even though this game flow might be more favorable, like we were just talking about, to the running game of the Bears. I got to go with Booty. Back-to-back touchdowns. Cleveland doesn't feel like a great spot, but they are a very, very good run defense. And McDaniels has been phenomenal at attacking the weaknesses of opponents. And sure, they have a couple of award, some decent corners there. But Booty is rock solid in terms of the end zone targets, the red zone role, in terms of the route share. I got to lean into that. I like Kyle Monangai. I would probably, if it was just Monangai, Booty, and that was the only two, and you didn't have Swift in your lineup, I probably would say Monangai. I think you're asking for a lot to get both, even in a good matchup. I think you're asking a lot if you need to rely on both Swift and Monangai this week. I'd rather spread that bet out and get a touchdown potential out of Booty. And thank you so much, Andrew Myers, for your generous super chat as well. Which D should I start? Bears, Bucks, Bengals, Bills, Niners. I like the Bills, I think, the most here. Andy Dalton, he can come out firing. We've seen that before, but usually when he comes out firing, there's a couple interceptions, costly mistakes. It is in Carolina. The Bears have definitely been leaping up my rankings, but Tyler Huntley actually takes a decent care of the ball. I don't know. The Bears have been turning that rock over at a very, very high clip. So I am a fan of the Bears, no doubt about it. I bumped them all the way to I'm going to put them above the Packers. The Packers do worry me. I think we're going to get Aaron Rodgers, just vintage, slinging it all over the place. I still think the Bills are my favorite option here by a good amount. So I like them. They're 8-0 off bye weeks under McDermott. The defense always seems to tighten it up that week with extra planning. So I'm going to go with the Bills there for that one, and think a pick six comes your way here. We shall see. All right, and Fatty getting a couple more in here. Hunt, Gainwell, Spears. I would go with Gainwell. I think it's in the end zone tonight. I don't know. They all kind of suck, though. Brashard Smith would be my preferred play, Fatty Mateo, if he's out there for you. Bulldog, what's going on, Bulldog? Good morning to you. Dowdle or Judkins in full PPR? It's tough because the Pats still have not given up a 50-yard rusher. Dowdle in a better spot this week. Buffalo, a pretty generous run defense, but I still think I'm leaning into Judkins, a touchdown machine right now. We still rocking with Tet or go with T, says Droid. I'm going to go with Tet. I think Andy Dalton, if anything, might be an upgrade for Tet. T is very, very intriguing. And now you got Sauce Gardner out. So this defense that was already pretty generous to number twos is now rotating even more bodies around. So it is tough. I have the T at 16 and Tet 14. Couldn't be closer, but I'm going to go with Tet. Yo, Soy Tony, what's going on? Smash the like, fellas. Indeed, 1,300 of you now. We're starting to climb. You love to see it. Thank you so much. If you guys are willing to hit that thumbs up, you enjoy what you're hearing, it would be so greatly appreciated to hit that like button, folks. Whether on YouTube, Twitter, everywhere, it does greatly help us out. We got Golden versus Mooney and smashing the like for Yo Soy Tony. I'm looking right now where I have Mooney, which is definitely too low. I do prefer him to Golden, and so I want to make sure my rankings reflect that. Now, Pittsburgh has given up a lot of big plays, but we know Mooney has that special connection with Kirk Cousins. I'm gonna bump him up over Kendrick Bourne even. Mooney right at wide receiver 30, right below Tez Johnson, my favorite wide receiver streamer of the week. But yeah, I think Mooney was definitely due for a bump up. Whereas Golden, questionable now tonight. Defense, again, that's very generous. But he's just been so inconsistent. So I'm not very much into that one myself. So give me Mooney over Golden there. The Cheng 28. I'm playing Whitehall, London, and Sutton. Who should I flex or how to adjust my lineup? Diggs, Hubbard, Henderson not playing at all, or McMillan. I like Tet McMillan if that's one of the options here. I would definitely keep all the 4 guys in that you mentioned, the Cheng. I would rank them McMillan and Diggs. You go McMillan, then Diggs, and I wouldn't consider either of the other 2 is how I would play that. So if you really don't like McMillan, go with Diggs, but no Henderson, no Hubbard in that one. It is, Lewis, a crazy-ass week. That is indeed true. Buenos dias, Leo Lobo, Feliz Domingo, my man Thomas in Panama, if I'm not mistaken, right? Great to see you. Cheers. Feliz Domingo indeed, sir. Can only play one versus Rico for the flex. Gracias. I'd be going with Dowdle in that one. The way he's been cooking, I know Hubbard came back, made this an annoying committee. Dowdle looks so much better and ended up getting more touches despite fewer snaps and not getting the start. Insane to me. How this guy has over 200 yards in back-to-back weeks. He looked really good, and this is a defense that can be run upon. And so I'd lean into Dowdle and hope this team does what's right and gives him some more work. Harrison asking, Devin Neal, Isaiah Davis, or Tootin to stash? I think I do like Tootin the most long-term, but you're not going to gain any value this week. And I think he'll kind of fly under the radar if you let him go for right now, because at least you can learn something about Devin Neal. I think Devin Neal is the one that intrigues me the most. Isaiah Davis, you're stashing in the hopes that Pearsall gets traded, in which case he would shoot up the rankings, no doubt. But they probably keep him in a complimentary role. He's not a true 3-down grinder. He might. If I had to pick one for this week, though, it'd be Devin Neal. They said they're going to give him some more carries. I loved the prospect. Kendra Miller was looking decent behind this line. It's an actually solid offensive line here. So I'd like to see what Devin Neal does the most today. Whereas the other 2, longer-term upside, if I could only pick one, it would be Tootin. I just love the player, love the profile. I love that Liam Cohen handpicked him. I still think he has some nice upside to be stashed here. But if you think you could kind of sneak him through to next week and see what Devin Neal does, because if Neal goes off today for 10 carries, 90 yards, touchdown, save yourself the $50 a fab that everyone else is going to blow on him. That's how I would play that one, Harrison, if that makes any sense. I know it's kind of a wishy-washy. I like Tootin. If I could only pick one, it would be Tootin. But if I could maneuver the waiver wire well enough, it would be Devin Neal today. And if he does nothing, then Tootin entering next week. Robbie, thank you so much, good sir, for the very, very generous $10 super chat. You are a legend. Next week, quarterback Mayfield and Egbuka on a bye week. Would you play without a kicker and pick up Mariota, Penix, or Cousins, CJ Stroud? And then rate these players: Tez Johnson, Debo, Terry, Noel, and Higgins for full PPR. Let's dive in, and thank you again so much, Robbie, with the very, very generous super chat here. I would first, in terms of the quarterback question, I don't think it's worth sacrificing the points this week. You still got to get the win. Unless you're like, I'm getting smoked already. I was facing Gadsden and Vidal. My team's all on bye. I'm not going to win. Sure, I guess you can get ahead on it. But I would not necessarily worry about that right now. It sounds like in terms of quarterbacks, already Mariota. So I don't know if you're asking for like your backup for next week or for this week. So let's play both situations, Robbie. If you're looking for You're playing Mayfield this week. I just don't know if you're looking for like a second quarterback. If it's a 2 QB league. So I would rank them this week: Mariota and then Cousins, then CJ Stroud. If I had to pick one up for next week, I don't know the week 9 matchups off the top of my head. Texans week. You gave me a $10 super chat. So they got the Broncos. So it's definitely not CJ Stroud. Mariota probably not going to be starting. They said it's only a 1-week injury for him. And then, is it going to be Cousins? Falcons week 9. Get the Pats, not a great matchup for them either. And then we got the Commanders, week 9, facing the Seahawks. Not a great matchup for them. So either way, if this is just a pure stash and you're like, I'm going to sacrifice kicker points, well, if you lose by 5 and you could have had a kicker that got you 10, you're going to be pissed, Robbie. So no, I would not. None of these quarterbacks have a matchup that's like, I'm frothing at the mouth. I have to have this guy for the bye week. When push comes to shove next week, who do I prefer? It's probably one of the Falcons guys, and you hope that game against the Patriots kind of gets a little juicy. But I don't love it at all. So no, the first answer is I would not be dropping a kicker to stash any of these 3 middling quarterbacks in bad matchups next week. Let's just revisit it next week, see who else is out there on the waivers, because I really don't think any of these guys will be in my top 20 quarterbacks or so next week. In terms of the other part of this question, Tez Johnson, Debo, Terry, Noel, and Higgins. And I'm going to assume I'll do it with both T. Higgins and Jayden Higgins. But again, some good clarity for you guys out there. Please do make sure you're asking with the full name for some of these players that in the past there was only one Higgins. Now there's 2. And you're asking about Texans guys, so it very well could be them. So I'll rank all of them, assuming both Higgins is here. I would say T. Higgins is my favorite of all these options if you had T. Higgins. Assuming it's not T. Higgins, then I go Debo and Terry. I would go both Commanders guys. And then I would rank them Tez Johnson ahead of both of the receivers for the Texans. So it would go T. Higgins, Debo, Terry, Tez Johnson, like a tier below, and then Jaylen Noel, and then Jayden Higgins, if that's how you had to rank them. So, Robbie, thank you so much for the generous super chat. It is so greatly appreciated. But again, do not drop that kicker. None of those quarterbacks are very, I got to have them type players anyways, and none of them have great matchups next week. So we can figure that out. I don't think anyone in your league is sprinting out to block you from all 3 of these quarterbacks. And they're all just kind of like, none of them are standing head and shoulders above the others. So get those kicker points. Make sure you have them in your lineup, because that way you can fight for the win with everything you got this week. And then, again, T. Higgins, Debo, Terry, Tez Johnson, Noel, Higgins is how I would rank those, if that's Jayden Higgins you're asking about. Andrew Myers, your second super chat of the day. Very kind, very generous of you. PPR, we got Rico, Marks, and Harvey. I got to go Rico here. Yes, again, Chuba Hubbard, very, very annoying. Coming back and ruining this guy that was going for 200-plus yards back-to-back weeks, looking like far more of the explosive threat. And he did that again. He significantly outplayed Chuba. So I imagine Rico ends up earning more of these snaps and work. He already had more touches last week. He had just a couple snaps fewer. All these guys are committee backs, though, and Rico is the one playing at by far the highest level. Marks is intriguing in terms of maybe the biggest role of all these guys. 49ers, though, not a great matchup. Harvey, you need them to be blowing out a team for him to get some garbage time burn. Very intrigued by him long-term. But J.K. Dobbins is the one rolling. Now, granted, against Dallas, they're not going to blow him out. That offense is going to likely keep pace. It is a team that gives up huge plays. So could you see Harvey ripping a 50-yarder? Oh, yeah, absolutely. But Rico's also got a great matchup against a Buffalo team that's been getting gashed all season on the ground. And Rico just has these last few weeks of looking absolutely phenomenal, playing great ball. So I'm going to ride the Rico train there, Andrew Myers, and play him over the other options. Thank you again so much. Double super chats. So kind and so generous of you this week. And we left off. We had Harrison talking about the best stashes. So we are at Krana. Thank you again. 1,500. There we go. We are cooking at this point. Well, in fact, we're not even an hour in, and we already have 1,500 of you here. You guys are so kind and generous. Please do consider that thumbs up button on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter. It all does help us get out to more people. And, of course, we'd love to welcome new subscribers to the channel. So we'd love to have you join and be here long term. We got a good solid like 30 new subscribers last weekend with that record 4,000 live views. And last thing to pump before we get back to your questions is at rotostreetjournal.com. So much good content in terms of who to stash, who to stream, and also, of course, my rankings that can help you out as we go through this show as well at rotostreetjournal.com. Again, those site clicks all greatly help us out as well. Krana saying, no Lamar today. I was hoping, I think we were going to get a real fun game. I do think your score is a solid prediction. I think the Bears put up more points than that, though. This is a very bad Ravens defense. They are welcoming in a few parties Roquan Smith, some key players. And I don't want to undersell that, but this defense has been just pure booty cheeks all year, Krana. And so, yeah, I do like the Bears today. I like your Bears for sure. Flowers or Mooney for full PPR? I still got to go Flowers, Huntley. We don't know who it's going to be yet, but he does have a tendency to lock onto one target and just hammer them with looks. And so I do think that could be Flowers. It should be Flowers, and I do think they're going to be playing from behind. So I do go, as much as I like Mooney, I just bumped him up pretty big in the rankings. I like Flowers there. And then today, I got to go with Algier, actually, is my favorite. Assuming he's in, he's questionable, so do make sure to check that. But as long as Algier's in, you got that Miami matchup. And then I go with Woody Marks as he continues to take over this backfield. We did get 2 super chats, so back to those. We're up to 10 super chats on the days. You guys are so generous, so kind, so greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. GV4679. Jackson Dart or Flacco? We've gotten that one a couple times, and I keep going Jackson Dart back-to-back quarterback 3 weeks. Just has that it factor, the swag. I mean, he put on the most points the Broncos have given up in over 3 seasons to a quarterback last week. And I love him. I just think the kid is great. I love what Flacco did. Don't get me wrong. Against the Steelers, he was absolutely cooking. You got those weapons. They're both great options. That's what makes this one very tough for me. But to me, I really do like Jackson Dart as just an overall young, uprising stud. Whereas you could see a world where Flacco, the Bengals are just dominating the Jets, and then they just pound them into submission with the run game for the vast majority of the second half. That's how I expect that game to go. And so in that sense, Jackson Dart, more competitive atmosphere against Philly, a team he was just, again, the quarterback 3 for the week of just 2 weeks ago. I like Jackson Dart there. Very tough call, though, GV. Thank you again so much for the support. In terms of Bengals or Bears D, and you have Derrick Henry, you hate to have people going against your defense. And if Derrick Henry's doing well, your defense is getting pummeled, is likely the outcome there. That being said, the Bears, whatever that stat is in terms of the most turnovers across the last 3 or 4 games, it's up there like NFL history. I believe it's like 9 turnovers in 3 games or 4 games. They're playing at an elite level. You got Tyler Huntley on the other side. That offense does not worry me at all. If I had to pick one or the other, I think I'm going the Bears because, I mean, this Bengals defense, yeah, it's the Jets. Yeah, it's Justin Fields. They should destroy him. That's a bad defense, though. I think that's starting to get cute. Like, I'm going to go with the defense that is ultimately a good defense that's playing very, very well and now has a good matchup. There's 2 good matchups. I'm going to go with the defense that's actually like genuinely good. And that's the Bears. Even if you have Derrick Henry at running back there, I would go with, again, Jackson Dart and the Bears defense. FZ Ware, cheers. Thank you so much for the super chat. Very kind. You consistently, I see every week, FC Ware. You're the man. Thank you so much for your generosity. Cousins, Caleb, or Stroud? Never Stroud. Never, ever CJ Stroud. And certainly not when he has no Nico Collins or Christian Kirk. So not Stroud. I like Caleb Williams here. The Baltimore defense, yes, they're welcoming back some folks. They have been just tremendously bad. Tremendously bad. The oxymoron, that's how bad they are. It is horrific, though. And yes, again, reinforcements coming, solid enough. But Cousins, that to me just feels like Bijan going for 300 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. I like Cousins, and maybe it is. We see it. We saw it with Flacco last week, where like the old man gets his start, and he's got the veteran savvy. He just is excited to ball out again. I could see that being the Cousins case. You got the Miami matchup, absolutely juicy. But the Ravens matchup is extremely juicy for Caleb as well, who, last week, very concerning, not great play. But in general this season, Caleb's been playing some solid ball. And the matchup is just as ripe, if not riper, for him. I would have liked it more if it was Lamar playing and we had a back-and-forth shootout style elements, atmosphere, environment, but we don't. And so it is close. To me, it comes down to Caleb versus Cousins. The last time we saw Cousins, he looked like dog mess. And I know with the Achilles, getting a couple of years to heal is important. So I'm definitely not discounting the fact that Cousins could have himself a big day. If it was up to me, I'd be putting my faith in Caleb today. And then Diggs or Pacheco for a full PPR. I got to go with Diggs. I know it's been a couple weeks, but it's a guy that for at least a few weeks in a row 40% target share, 37% first read. The air yards, he had like 50% of the Patriots air yards. He was emerging as that true number one. And then he's had a couple quiet weeks, but it just feels like a Diggs week to me. So I like Diggs in this one. If Kareem Hunt, I don't believe he's already been ruled out. I know he's been kind of sketchy at practices. Let me just see. Because if Kareem Hunt was officially, he's limited on Friday, so it seems okay to play. It's just the goal line vulture. If we knew he was gone, I might lean into Pacheco here, but you still have that presence continuing to eat up his carries at the goal line. Makes me a little bit nervous there on Pacheco. Give me Diggs. Thank you so much again, FZ Ware, and thank you so much, Jeff Sandy. Greatly appreciate the super chat here. Cade Otton, Mason Taylor, Dalton Schultz, some of the best possible streaming tight ends of this week. Call me nuts, but I'm leaning into Cade Otton today. And I'm plus 6 ECR on him, so I don't think this is what the expert community, the rankings would recommend. But back-to-back weeks, solid 9 targets, 7 catches, 6 targets, 5 catches, the last few. And full PPR, that type of volume is really intriguing. Mason Taylor, of course, you got that Bengals matchup we talked about, as juicy as can be. Should be the lead target guy, but the lead target guy last week too. What did he do? Like 2 catches, not even. I don't want my faith in Justin Fields if it doesn't have to be. I like Cade Otton and Baker, that rapport a bit more. Dalton Schultz is the sneaky most intriguing in a full PPR. When you got the 10 targets, the 9 catches, what was it, 98, almost 100 yards last week, if I'm not mistaken. So he got, it's funny, I want to look at my rankings just to see how I had them ranked. And I have Otton at 10, Taylor 12, Dalton Schultz 13. But I think I'm going to put Dalton Schultz above Mason Taylor. As good. You couldn't ask for a better matchup again for tight ends, but he just has been so underwhelming with Justin Fields. He's so bad. If Tyrod Taylor was playing, I had Mason Taylor right there at like tight end 9. The Fields does worry me, though. So I'm going to go Cade Otton, then Mason Taylor, and then Dalton Schultz myself is how I would rank these ones out. I'm going to put Dalton Schultz above Zach Ertz. I'm going to put Mason Taylor above Zach Ertz for this week too, though. But yeah, so I would rank them again. Otton, then Schultz, then Taylor is how I would have those guys, Jeff. Thank you again so much for your generous super chat. It's definitely an intriguing tight end sleeper streamer week. We are at about 1,650 of you. Love to see it. We're not even a full hour in. You guys are the absolute best. 11 super chats to kick off our morning. So kind, so generous of you. The free way to help your boy is that thumbs up, the subscribe button as well. Would love to have you guys be here long-term with your boy. It means the world, though, to have you here right now. And thank you so much. And, of course, check out rotostreetjournal.com, where these rankings will be live and updated right after this show. Golden Mims or Tez Johnson. I'm going Tez Johnson, baby. Just like Cade Otton argument, I want volume that's coming from Baker Mayfield. And with no Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans, Tez Johnson, he's looked great so far. I'm deciding between Tez Johnson and Dallas Goedert for my flex myself, folks. I'm probably going to go Goedert, National Tight End Day, no A.J. Brown. But, man, that's how intrigued I am by Tez Johnson is the point to say there. So I love Tez Johnson. I have Tez Johnson and Golden in another league, and I'm going Tez. I know Mims against Dallas, the most points allowed to receivers. Great spot. Could this be the Mims 30-point day? It sure could, but I'm going to go with Tez Johnson there. Shaw. And Fannin, Taylor, or Loveland. In that case, I do go with Taylor as well, but Loveland, a very intriguing stash with no Cole Kmet today. Schultz or Ertz, you just saw me kind of debating that one live, and I ended up putting Schultz above Ertz myself. Given all these injuries around C.J. Stroud and that receiver core. And then finally, a deep league PPR, Noel, Slayton, DK, Higgins, or Watson. I'm going to go with Noel over Jayden Higgins. I don't know if my rankings reflect that quite yet. I know everybody else seems to prefer Higgins. He was the one that was drafted higher. But I do like Jalen Noel's role in that slot. Just a little bit more high percentage there. So I'm going to go with Noel in that one as well. Stephen McMahon, good morning to you too. At the flex PPR, start Tet or Chase Brown. I like Chase Brown there. This seems like a Chase Brown, after looking very good last week, 100 yards on the ground on limited carries. They kind of had to get away from him because the game basically opened up and became that shootout, and they decided Jamar Chase should be our feature running back. Let's pepper him with 23 targets. this week against the Jets. They should be up early. They should be bleeding clock. I am a little worried only 2 targets in back-to-back weeks with Joe Flacco because we know pass catching was a huge part of Chase Brown's ceiling here. In a full PPR, that also doesn't help. But this is a Chase Brown week. I'm feeling good about Chase Brown there. Chuba or Dowdle, if it's one or the other, it is 110% Mark Dowdle. I don't care if Chuba's the starter. I don't care if Chuba saw a higher snap share. Chuba is not playing good at all, and Dowdle is lighting up defenses. I would not start both unless I was desperate. So I guess it depends, Mark, who your other option is. But it's certainly Dowdle over Chuba for me. No doubt about that. Steelers or KC? I think you super chatted this one, Cody, and it was Kansas City is who we went with on that. Coach Zeke, what's going on? Good morning to you. Buymageddon is brutal. Between Spears or Monangai, assuming you don't have Swift in already too, I like Monangai more. That touchdown, no Roshan this week, so should have that big back roll on lock against a Baltimore defense that's, the second most points allowed to backs, only since he's allowed more. So, yeah, I like Monangai on that one. Thank you, TC, for reposting the stream. I greatly appreciate that. Anybody else willing to repost it, it would be so greatly appreciated. The hearts, the like button, all that stuff is so greatly appreciated. My man Tunes, what's going on? Flex 8. Full PPR. Dowdle, Marks, Brashard, Troy. It's always Dowdle anyways in this one, especially when you already have Sutton in there. But I was going to go Dowdle no matter what. Just killing it. You guys have a lot of questions on Dowdle. This guy is playing unbelievable ball in a good matchup this week. Chuba Hubbard, again, worries me, sure, but it's even if you're only giving Dowdle 50% of the work, the way he's been playing in the matchup, he should be more than okay. Jimmy Bridges, what's going on? Ferguson or Kittle, you got to keep riding the Fergie gravy train until that one falls off the rails, and I don't think it will fall off the rails the way that this offense is playing, the way the defense is forcing them into high game scripts. Ferguson is just a touchdown machine. So give me Jake Fergie for sure over Kittle. I do like Kittle today. National Tight Ends Day, baby. I got to figure out a touchdown parlay for our tight ends here. But give me Ferguson over Kittle for sure. And then Adunze or Williams in the flex. Who's D. Williams? I'm sorry, Jimmy. I do not know who you mean by D. Williams at all. I love Adunze. He's a top 10 wide receiver for me. And so I'm thinking it's going to be him. I don't know who I'm missing or what the typo might be. D. Williams. Is it Javonte? If it's Javonte Williams, then I'm going to go Javonte. If it's random D. Williams, Darrell Williams from a couple of years ago, I don't know. I'm going to go Javonte if it's Javonte Williams. Otherwise, it's a very good chance I'm probably going Adunze. I love Adunze this week. Superflex, Mac Jones or Fields? I'm going Fields and going for that rushing upside, Mr. Toon. Stephen Weber, what's going on? Good morning. I always appreciate your kind manners, Stephen Weber. And then Toons, Otton, Ingram, or Pitts. I would be going Otton very slightly over Pitts myself, Toons. I have them neck and neck in the rankings. I go Cade Otton. I like that one, a good matchup against New Orleans, and then 2, Baker Mayfield, like whoever he's catching volume from. We never got Pitts and maybe they make up for lost time. Pitts and Cousins get together, but I don't know. I'd like to avoid that. Coach Zeke, I need one wide receiver off waivers, half PPR. Mooney, Golden, Noel, Dyke, Higgins, Mims, Washington. I know it's gross. And all honesty, I like Mooney. I mean, to me, I like Golden the most rest of season, Coach Zeke. I feel like you got to find a way to cut somebody and stash him. But if I could only have one to start, again, Mooney, Kirk Cousins, they got that rapport last year. They were awesome together all season. The Miami matchup is juicy as anything. I really like Mooney this week. It's not a puke one for me. I actually like Mooney. That being said, I really like Golden long term. I just could see him working out. We get these glimpses of a true stud, and then, of course, they just don't give him enough volume. If it's one this week, it's definitely Mooney. I do think you got to find a way to whoever you have to drop to find Golden onto the bench, though. I would like as well. Yeah, Benson, I agree. So you got that Cardinals backfield on lock, Luis Perez. I think it's a smart idea to get banned for one final week against the Cowboys. I'm going to have to look ahead. I think it's a really good move. I'm going to have to look ahead because I saw him get dropped in a ton of leagues on bye week. One more start out of him, though, in a good matchup. I'm going to have to see where my flex and buys are looking next week, but I might have to scoop him right now. Full PPR, need 2. Flex T. Higgins, Dowdle, Shaheed, DJ Moore, Hunter, Henry, or Henderson. How are we asking about Henderson now, Tunes? I know he has to be rostered, but how could he even be in your starting peripherals when you have a T. Higgins and a Dowdle? You're actually asking about Henderson? It's T. Higgins and it's Dowdle, Tunes. I'm not expanding on those because your question includes asinine names. And I'm all saying this just so I hope Henderson lights me up and makes me look like a fool. I'm trying to get whatever I can to light the fire under that guy. I hate how the team is using him, though. But, yeah, it's T and it's Dowdle for sure, Tunes. Karis J. Mack, Woody Marks, or Tez Johnson. I'm liking Tez Johnson. I love Tez today. Call me crazy. He's the poster boy of this week, the thumbnail. I just think Tez Johnson is going to – he's already looked good. Back-to-back weeks with 10-plus PPR points. Had that touchdown last week and the wide open opportunity there. I love him. May or Dak this week? always asking this one, Hot Tune. I got to go with May. Just playing lights out MVP level ball. I don't know, though. I mean, Dak, in terms of like game environment, we just saw what Jackson Dart did. Yeah, I'm going to go Dak over May. That very rarely do I go May below many people at all. But I think he's going to be below Dak for me this week just because, I mean, unless they try to 40-piece the Browns and send a message, but why do that? Whereas Dallas, Denver, that game feels competitive. That game feels fun. That's one that I could see really erupting. I'm going to go with Dak Prescott there, Tunes. Bears or Bucks D? I like the Bears there. Again, I keep saying it. I think they're getting very slept on, Mark Schaffner, for sure. Seamus J. Timberlake, the lone man watching on Facebook over there still. Love to see you, Seamus. Thank you so much for your kind words, good sir. You're the best. You're the best dance instructor in the world and a very, very good fantasy player yourself, sir. A true wolf. Smith or Terry Cody Welsh? I think we already answered that one on Super Chat, and it was definitely Devonta Smith. No A.J. Brown. Awesome stuff. Texans wide receiver question. Will Fuller, whatever happened, Jim, to Will Fuller? I have been waiting on this guy to return for 4 seasons. He had some of the most explosive plays you'll ever see with him and Deshaun Watson when Watson wasn't an absolute – well, probably was a psycho, but closeted at least. We didn't know what was happening back then. Good Lord. Will Fuller, I mean, there was a stretch run where he was like the number 3 wide receiver in fantasy going absolutely bananas. And then he just fell off the face of the earth and no one ever gave him another shot. Maybe he just – I don't know. I have no idea what happened to him. But I do miss Will Fuller for sure. Tebow or Olave? I got to go with Olave on that one. Cody Welsh, he's been absolutely crushing it lately. Rattler and him, that rapport seems to be – I mean, who knows how much longer Rattler will be starting if he plays like he did last week. But 2 touchdowns went to Olave. That was nice. And he's just been getting hammered with targets. They're starting to actually lead to genuine, real production that we can use in our lineups. So I like going Olave for sure. Jose Rodriguez, 1 flex. Brees, Kittle, or Tez? Ooh. A few of my favorites here. I want to say Kittle for National Tight End Day, but I'd be lying if I said I have Kittle in my flex right now. And if I had Brees, I'd be swapping him in. That Cincy matchup is just too juicy, especially in terms of how much passing they give up to running backs. And they're going to need to pepper Pearsall today. So give me Brees in that one. Dalton Schultz or Cade Otton in PPR for Jay Charles. I'm going with Cade Otton. It's very, very close. I have them neck and neck. I see the PPR upside to both of these guys. I want the one attached to Baker Mayfield myself, even if he's lesser on the target totem pole. Drake May or Justin Fields? Got to go with Drake May. I know that rushing upside is very high for Fields against a Bengals defense that can't stop anybody on the ground. I could never bench Drake May for Justin Fields at this point, though. May is playing an MVP level Ronaldo. Justin Fields is just as likely to go for 30 as he is to go for negative points. And I'd rather just have the security of Drake May in my lineup for sure. Giuseppe Russo. Good to see you, Giuseppe. I think Swift is fine. Is there really any real risk here? If he doesn't go, I would definitely go Algier, who I actually think is more questionable than Swift. I'm assuming Swift's in, and this is a non-question, but if he is out, I would definitely go Algier. That Miami matchup is completely juicy. I think Algier will definitely find the end zone and do some mop-up work today. If London doesn't play, it's an option to play Tez, Shaheed, or Golden. Give me Tez 10 out of 10 times, Jose. Huge fan of him, and I think that's a perfect backup plan. I have both my QBs out, Jackson and Lawrence. Should I pick up Mariota, Cousins, or Mac Jones for this week? I like Mariota in the rushing upside Lamont. It won't be as pretty. You could see Cousins having a nice completion rate. I could see Mac throwing for 300 yards. But Mariota, as a starter, is consistently solid for fantasy. Let me just pull up his game log this year. I know he's been quarterback 6, quarterback 17, so not quite as good, only 10 or 20 rushing yards 2 weeks ago. But then in 2024, he made a couple starts and was the quarterback 9 and quarterback 6. So, I mean, 3 out of 4 times he's been a top 12 quarterback, Mariota. Now you have Debo and Terry both back. I liked Mariota there. Want to keep Evans in IR, but it's time. I have to drop him. So sickening. The 1,000-yard record comes to an end. I know I probably, Giuseppe, have to cut him too. Is he – the one thing I would say, though, Giuseppe, is I think he's due back in the fantasy playoffs. And not that they're going to be able to get him 1,000 yards, but I wouldn't want him I don't know. Like, I don't know if he's out for the season. I think it was like an 8-week recovery, which would have him back. I think he'd be back right around the fantasy playoffs. So I was going to put in Lamar Jackson into my IR and then use that to pick up somebody new today while I drop Evans. But let's look into that one, Giuseppe, because if he's back for the fantasy playoffs, I don't think you can drop him. My guy, there we go. My man, Hollywood French Bulls. What's going on? Thank you so much for asking. I am absolutely in love with the girl dad life. Josie's now 7 months. She is beyond gorgeous. She's just the cutest little girl, such a happy little soul. It's so good. It's been the best 7 months of my life. Loving girl dad life. She's such a little sweetheart, doing great at daycare now that we're back to our full-time jobs, and she's handled it so well. She's just so funny and social, and I could talk the next 2 hours about Josie, so I'll keep the questions moving, but I really do appreciate you asking. She has been the absolute joy of a lifetime that you can't know how much love you're going to have for someone like that until it happens, and your heart explodes. It's been the best. Thank you so much for asking. Absolutely the best. In May we trust. Indeed we do. In May we trust. Rest of season PPR. Who would you rather roster, JT or Chase? I like JT. I do think it's neck and neck. But JT, I mean, he might be going for LaDainian Tomlinson's touchdown record this year. And I'm just going to keep that riding. So I know in full PPR, the gap's even closer. But I'm going to go with JT because that Flacco game, it looked amazing. But at any point, if that cratered, it wouldn't shock you. Whereas JT, it's like unless he gets hurt, that man is going to be going nuts all season. Wandale or Tez? I'm going to go with Tez over Wandale. I mean, Wandale did light up the Eagles last time they played. He is about all they have. But I don't know. Like I just am feeling the Tez vibes today. I really am. Oh, that's tough. I think I'm going to go Tez, and I'm going to adjust my rankings to reflect that. I know Wandale lit him up last time they met, but very, very close. Play one of these 4 names: Devonta Smith, Cousins, Mariota, Somio Dobbs. Tyler, I love you, and I greatly appreciate your super chats, but your spelling errors always make it a journey to figure out what you're actually asking here. My guess is it's Devonta Smith versus Kirk Cousins versus Mariota versus Romeo Dobbs, is I think what these names are. I would be leaning into – it must be a super flex, and I like Devonta Smith. Just given no A.J. Brown, no and a great matchup for wide receivers, fresh off 189-yard touchdown day, I think he keeps it cooking. And so even over quarterbacks, I typically in a super flex say always go to the quarterback for the fastest path to points. In this case, though, Devonta Smith's the top 7 wide receiver for me. To me, it's more so like, who are your receivers, Tyler, that you have ahead of Devonta Smith, and would I put a quarterback in over either of those guys in the super flex? But I would rank these, if I have them right, Devonta Smith. I would rank it Devonta Smith, then Mariota, then Cousins, then Romeo Dobbs. Which I believe, you clarify there. It is Romeo Dobbs as well. And I think Descente Smith is Devonta Smith. So I'd rank them Smith, then Mariota, then Cousins, then Dobbs. But I also would be intrigued to know who you have in at receiver ahead of Devonta, because he's my wide receiver 7. So unless it's, to give you the names, Rashee Rice, Jamar Chase, Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, who might be out, or Ibuka. If it's not one of those 6 guys, Devonta Smith should be in at receiver no matter what, and you might want to put in a different quarterback over some of those guys. But thank you again, Tyler, so much, so generous of you, consistently coming in here to Super Chat your boy. I would go again, Devonta Smith, then Mariota, then Cousins, then Dobbs is how to see, could I put a quarterback in over somebody other than Smith? Because Smith has to be in lineups this week. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. All righty. We left off at Wandale or Tez, I believe. Yep, that's where we were at. So Giuseppe asking Flacco or Fields. I'm going to go with Flacco, just a little bit safer. The upside is definitely higher with Fields and the rushing upside there. But Flacco, there's a high ceiling, no doubt, as well. And it not rushing-wise, but ultimately I do like Flacco there. Safer floor, similar ceiling in my eyes. Hollywood French Bulls, hope everyone wins their matchups. Let's go. May the fantasy gods be with us today and the rest of season. Amen. We worship at their temple. Thank you so much, Hollywood French Bulls, for your blessing of the day. In your fantasy gods we trust. Thanks, brother. Good luck to you as well and everybody else out there watching. And everybody else out there watching, 45 minutes or so left in the stream. We got a good mailbag here, so in about 20 minutes or so, I'm going to go into rapid fire mode. But if you do want to cut the line, that Super Chat is the way to do it. Just like Mr. Andrew Myers for your 3rd Super Chat of the day. You are so kind. We're up to 14 Super Chats on the day. He's asking T. Higgins or Tez. I love Tez. You probably heard my enthusiasm, which made you think, I got to ask it at least. I got to go T over Tez, though, myself. Flacco absolutely cooking last week. And you could have had a 100-yard, 2-touchdown day if T. Higgins wasn't so unselfish and got down as a smart wide receiver play there. But still finished with a very, very nice day for you with Joe Flacco. 10 targets, 6 catches, 96 yards and a score. I mean, that is a beautiful, beautiful day. If Tez Johnson even approached that, you'd be over the moon, Andrew Myers. And then you got the Jets, who already, if Sauce Gardner was in, T would be in a great spot because he's been shadowing number 1 Sauce. He's been very solid at it. But now that he's out, it's like, lights up, let's go. The secondary is abysmal behind him. And so I do think I actually would rather have T versus Tet McMillan. I've been going back and forth. I think somebody asked that, but the more I think about the matchups and, how this could play out, I think I'm going to go T over Tet there. Certainly over Tez, no doubt about it. I'm just adjusting the rankings on the fly. Definitely T. Higgins. As much as I love Tez Johnson and maybe the number 2 for Baker, good matchup. Team giving up a lot of big plays. Tez is in a great spot. But T is a tier or 2 above Tez, in my opinion. Good sir. Thank you again so much, Andrew, for your generosity today. Multiple Super Chats. Very kind, very generous of you. Means a lot. You're such a legend for doing that. All righty. We were at Bruce K, I believe, after our blessing from Hollywood French Bulls. We have PPR sit 1, Mooney, Marks, or Rico. I'd be sitting Marks. I like that everything's trending his way. The game flow should be probably a Marks one today. But as soon as you think you have your pulse on that backfield, Nick Chubb for 20 carries for 30 yards. And even Marks himself, 10 carries for 15 yards. It was abysmal. Great pass catcher, did catch that touchdown. Like the guy and like the way it's trending. But to me, Rico, loving that play today. That's the lock for me. And then Mooney versus Marks is close, but Kirk Cousins and Mooney have that beautiful rapport. The Miami matchup is as good as can be. I'm going to go Rico and Mooney for that one. And I'll be sitting, again, Mooney Marks. We did have 2 more Super Chats come in. My man, Coach Zeke. Cheers, brother. Thank you so much for your generosity here, my man. If I pick up Mooney, who should I drop? Bench is Charbs, Collins, Gibbs, Pearsall, BTJ, Walker, Jamo, Manungai. Yeah, that is hard to drop any of these guys. I agree. You're certainly not dropping. Yeah, I mean, the only one that is possibly droppable is Monangai. I'm intrigued by him, especially if Swift was to sit today, then you don't even think twice. You keep Monangai. If Swift's in, which he's probably in, then yeah, you could. I probably would drop Monangai. Well, this is, Coach, I want to remember, are you definitely starting, like whoever you pick up, you have to start, is what I think. So it comes down to like you're starting Monangai or you're starting Mooney. I'd rather start Mooney this week unless Swift is ruled out. And so I'd probably make that move, but I am very intrigued to see what Monangai does. You could cut JMO. Call me nuts. Are you really going to ever trust that guy the rest of the season? I know he was one of my guys preseason. I'm kind of waving the white flag on him. Like, unless there's a St. Brown injury, he's going to be too boom or bust. But I'd rather, unless I'd rather have JMO on my team than Mooney when push comes to shove at the end of the day, because he could really get that ship right. And we saw it last year. When he's right, it's amazing. So it is hard to drop any of these guys. The first one on the chopping block would be Monangai. If you have to pick up a receiver today, I would drop Monangai for Mooney, assuming, again, Swift is out. If you don't have to pick up Mooney and you don't need to use him, then I'd probably just keep it as you have it, Coach Zeke. I don't think I make a move because I'd rather see what Monangai does if it's just for a pure bench stash. But if you need to start one of these guys, yeah, I'd drop Monangai for Mooney, assuming Swift is out. Otherwise, I hold pat. Most of the time, I'm going to hold pat there and just keep the roster as it is. Trade review for Dylan Bowen. Judkins or Rome. I consider that almost a dead even trade, Dylan. So honestly, that's hopefully one of those situations where, like, whichever one you got, you needed more. You had let's say you had good receiver depth and you moved Rome for Judkins. Fair deal. The other team needed the running back help. Awesome. I would truly value these guys just about the same. If I had to pick one and just say who do I have higher in my rest of season rankings on the trade value charts, that stuff, it's probably Judkins just because it's safer. Rome's been pretty inconsistent these last few weeks, so I think there's a little more volatility to Rome. Whereas Judkins, it's like, here's your featured back. He's going to get fed each and every week. It got into my head. I had to only pick one of them, maybe Judkins. I just checked my rest of season rankings to confirm that. And I have Judkins at 24 and Rome 27. So very fair trade either way. And hopefully it came down to team need and you both got better because of it. That's kind of one of those trades. It seems like a win-win. I love it. Nadize, and we got a bunch of super chats coming in right here. You guys are so kind, so generous. Thank you so, so much. Up to 19 of them on the day. You guys are the best. Nadize, drop Falcons D and play Broncos to roster JCM. Oh, you have to roster JCM. I know, a little disappointing these last couple of weeks, but he needs to be in. So if it's a matter of having two defenses on your roster or one and you get to have JCM, yeah, I would drop the Falcons D. I'd rather have it's a tough matchup this week for the Broncos facing the Cowboys. So I do prefer the Falcons as a defense this week. Why not drop the Broncos? Do you have to hold on to the Broncos defense? I'm trying to think of. Let me just look at the Broncos schedule because I feel like they have the Chiefs next week, and it's one of those. Is it so Broncos schedule? Oh no, they do have a pretty good upcoming schedule. You got the Texans next week, good matchup. Raiders, that's good, and then you got the Chiefs. That's when it starts to get a little sketchy. So yeah, I probably would hold on to the Broncos and just hope they pick off Dak a couple times. But either way, you got to get rid of one of the defenses, and you got to pick up JCM. He should not be on waiver wires, Nadize, and I would not be holding two defenses in this case if it means that I can have JCM on my team. So I would probably do what you're talking about here, dropping Falcons. Sadly, in a great spot against Miami, they're going to have more points than the Broncos this week. They're my number 3 defense. I love them this week. But if it's one or the other, don't you think you could pick the Broncos back up next week, right? Play the Falcons this week, scoop the Broncos back up, and have JCM on the roster the whole time. That's what I would honestly try to do, is drop Falcons, or rather drop Broncos today, because Falcons against Miami today, that's a great defensive spot. And I think they're going to put up 18 points, one of those game-changing weeks, whereas the Broncos against the Cowboys, sketchy. So I'd go Falcons this week. I'd drop them for the Broncos next week against the Texans. and I'd have JCM the whole time is how I would play that. Nate Easy. FZ Ware, your second super chat of the day. So kind, so generous. Thank you, good sir. Mooney or DJ Moore? It is, I'm in the process of finalizing my Mooney ranks because I did not give him the appropriate Kirk Cousins bump entering today. It's kind of DJ Moore, though, gets the Baltimore matchup, and that is juicy. And, man, he's just been so underwhelming. He looked like he was going to get it cooking on that Monday night game versus Washington, and then he got hurt. He comes back last week and is playing banged up against the Saints. 43-ish yards, 9 on the ground. I do love the consistent rushing involvement for him, the attempts to get him the ball. Gun to my head, I had to make this decision. It would be DJ Moore, but it is very, very close. Very tough call. But I'd be going DJ Moore over Darnell Mooney this week. And with the appropriate Mooney bump, he ends at 30 and Moore's at 28. So very, very close, FZ, where if your gut's like, I kind of like the Mooney side, I could follow that, but I would go DJ Moore if I was you. Hollywood French Bulls, thank you so much, sir. PPR, running back 2, Dowdle, Pacheco, Flex, Tez Johnson, Debo Samuel. I'm leaning more Pacheco and Tez. I won't lie, Hollywood French, I'm leaning the exact opposite. I'm going Dowdle and Debo in this situation. Debo being a closer one because you got the quarterback questions, but he's been rock solid all year. And Mariota can get him the rock, even if Terry is back in there too. And I just love the Dowdle. Again, I know Chuba coming back and making this a timeshare is annoying, but Pacheco's got Hunt and Brashard Smith to deal with, and he's losing the goal line work. He's losing receiving work. Dowdle's playing out of his mind, and Buffalo is the 4th best matchup for running backs. So I'm going to go Dowdle. I feel much better about Dowdle over Pacheco than I do Debo versus Tez. That's a tougher question, but I do go Debo, given the track record this year. Now he's practicing in full, and they're going to need their points. I go Dowdle and Samuel myself. So I'm leaning the opposite way, you French Bulls. You got to always trust your gut. So, yeah. All right, so Coach Zeke, you need to start both Monangai and Mooney. So it comes down to you have to cut one of these bye week guys. You're obviously not cutting Gibbs. You're not going to cut Nico. You're not going to cut BTJ. I mean, cutting a Seahawks back would be tough. I think you got to cut JMO if you have to start both these guys. But you say if I pick up Mooney, like, do you have to start Mooney? Again, it sounds like you do. So JMO is the only guy from there I would cut. But when you say if, it's like, are you going to just take a 0 and not drop somebody? Or what's the if here, Coach Zeke? But if you had to drop one of these guys, it is JMO for me. The most inconsistent of the bunch here. So, yeah, if you got to start both these guys, then JMO is the one on the chopping block from the list you sent. It hurts. That's not somebody I want to cut. But, Zeke, you got to do what you got to do to get the win. And, I think you might have to cut JMO here based on that list you just sent, my man. Thank you so much for your super chat. And my man, Dad Bod. Yeah, what's going on? How are you, sir? Rodgers or Mariota? This is a really tough one. We've gotten this one a couple times. I do prefer Mariota myself. We talked about it, but in 4 starts over the last 2 years since Daniels was out, he's been a top 12 quarterback in 3 of those 4. The low was quarterback 17, so right around where like Rodgers is averaging on the year. There is that juicy Rodgers narrative of the revenge game tonight. I do buy that. I think he wants to throw 3 to 4 touchdowns tonight. But I still think Mariota's rushing upside, both his weapons, Debo and Terry, in that lineup, chasing points against the Chiefs. I like Mariota there, Dad Bod. That's who I am leaning with is my quarterback fill-in for you. Thank you guys so much. 21 super chats. So kind and generous of you folks today. I greatly, greatly appreciate that. All righty. We are at Morning Wolf. So that's where we left off. So Schultz, Taylor, or Otton. I would be going with Otton in full PPR. I believe that's the one we left off. Evan Ingram has legit the most tight end targets since returning and plays Dallas, but let's not talk about – I mean, Harrison, that's a good stat. I did not know he has the most targets since returning. That's a good start, and I appreciate you bringing it up because I did not know that one. And honestly, I'm bumping Evan Ingram up the ranks. The fantasy expert should know that 100%. I'm just going to confirm that is correct for everybody else out there. 6, 7, 6, 6, and 8. I mean, that's pretty good volume, but let's call it half PPR. What's he turned that into? Tight end 27, tight end 12, tight end 23, tight end 21. So, yeah, I mean, the Dallas matchup's great. I like that he's getting decent amount of targets. I can't imagine that's legit the most targets of tight ends racked up in these last 4 weeks. 13, 19, 25 targets. I bet you there's somebody that has more than 25 targets. It is a good amount of work. I still believe he's playing like 40 to 50% of the snaps, though. But I get it. I think it's a good stat to bring up. I appreciate you bringing it up. But it's just a matter of like, what's it matter when he has one top 12 tight end finish? And so that's almost like worse if he is actually leading the NFL in tight end targets over the last 4 weeks and he's gotten one top 12 finish out of it. What are we talking about then, but good stat. I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, good stuff, Harrison. Intriguing. A lot of volume, not a lot of production. We get the points for the production at the end of the day. But it is good signal, and I'm glad you brought it up. Josie Cruz, bye week. 1 running back to start in full PPR. Monungai, Davis, Trevion, Brashard, Chubb, or Algier. This sucks, I know. I'm a victim of the injury bug. It does suck, but honestly, of these options, I feel pretty good about Algier. I think that team is going to destroy the Dolphins, and we're going to get Algier's already kind of that mop-up hammer. I think this is a game that you're getting a touchdown. It's a matter of does Algier sneak in twice for scores? So I do like Algier. I think there's a lot of upside to him. If not him, let's say he's ruled out because I know he is questionable today. If he does end up getting ruled out, I would go to Monungai myself of these options. And it sucks, but I mean, you know what? You got some intriguing options here. I like Brashard Smith too, but Hunt being in worries me a little bit more about him. I am giving him a bump down with Hunt practicing, likely to now play on Monday. It does give a little bit of a hit to Brashard Smith, who I would now have Monungai ahead of Brashard. But yeah, I would go. I do think Algier is the clear best of these options myself. And it does suck. I'm with you. All righty. But Algier really doesn't suck. I shouldn't say it sucks. I have him as a top 25 running back, and he's looked good all year. So as long as he's in, it's him. And if not, it's Monungai for me. 3 or 4 tight ends that score today. Caleb Williams or Mariota. So you're looking to put together a touchdown parlay. In fact, Bulldog, I'm going to take out my phone because I made one a little inebriated last night. Enjoyed the putts, enjoyed a drink or two. And I put together a tight end parlay for tight end day. So let me tell you the 4. Because it's not the 4 that I think are the most likely to hit, but it's the odds I like the most. So I like Dalton Kincaid plus 195. I liked Mason Taylor plus 260. I took Dallas Goedert plus 150. I took Kittle 160, and I took Cade Otton for 180. So I did a 5-legger, $5 to win 961. So pick your favorite 4 of that. Again, Kincaid, Taylor, Goedert, Kittle, Otton is the one that I like for scores there. For their odds. I mean, if it's going to pick 3 or 4 tight ends, I would just read off the number, my rankings here, and give you the 3 to 4 that I think are the best. Tyler Warren, Ferguson, Kraft, Goedert. That would be your best odds, in terms of actually hitting. But in terms of the value for the odds, I thought that Kincaid, Taylor, Goedert, Kittle, and Otton brought the juice. Otton being the one that makes me the most nervous. He just doesn't score touchdowns for some reason, but I think he gets in today. So that, and then Caleb Williams or Mariota, I'm going to go with Mariota there. Hollywood French Bulls is where I would be going myself. I wish Lamar was playing. We get a better atmosphere, but ultimately that's a bad Ravens defense, and Caleb has been pretty solid all season. So I feel a little safer rolling with him, despite, again, the fact Mariota, top 12 quarterback in 3 of his 4 starts the last 3 years. He's looked really good when he's out there. But it's still a little bit I feel like Caleb's been better. So, all right. And then we are going to Blake Borovitz. Although, that's all the super chats. 23 of them. Thank you guys so much for that. All right, Blake. Superflex full PPR Dynasty League. Would you trade Dak and Devontae for Puka and Torrey Horton? Yes, I would. Any chance you have to get Puka, who's like a top 3 Dynasty asset overall, and you have that quarterback depth already? Yes, 110. Call it. Sorry for the little blip there, but yes, I would 100% do that deal in case that did not go through for you, Blake Orovets. Giuseppe Crusoe, Rodgers or Fields? Like I said, I'm going Fields. Unless you're a heavy favorite and you just want the safety, Rodgers is certainly a safer play, but Fields running along that defense seems very juicy to me. Non-PPR, Barkley or Judkins as running back 2. I got JT as my running back 1. I would roll with Barkley today. It is a very tough Pats run D. Crazy thing is like this is not a crazy question. Entering the season, you'd be like, what? Why you ask this? But you got Barkley against his old team. They really need to get him cooking, and this is a great week to do it. So I would go with Barkley over there. JT is running back 1. Let's roll. Scansy, I'm going to take a quick swig. Actually, we did get a super chat from Fusion B. So let me take a quick swig of this body armor, and then I will get to you. I get a little parched here. A lot of talking. All righty. Hydration is key, folks. Quarterback bye week for my man Fusion V. He needs Flacco or Cousins. Which old man are we going to? I like old man Joe. Sleepy Joe Flacco here is my preferred option. 2 good matchups for Cousins and Flacco here. But whereas Cousins is in that spot where it's Miami, you pound him on the ground. This is a conservative offense that is more often than not content to just run the ball 45 times and bleed that clock and lean on their defense. Flacco, we saw last week go completely berserk. You have better weapons. Drake London's also now questionable too. So give me Flacco, Chase T. Higgins. I love that offense. And I think yes, they're both in good matchups, but between Flacco, we've already seen it this year. Cousins, we have no idea what he's going to look like. And then the weapons for Flacco just significantly better as well. If I'm going quarterback bye week, I'm leaning into Joe Flacco of those options. He's a top 13 quarterback for me this week. I love him. Absolutely cooked last week for sure. All right, so we were on Scansy. Thank you guys again so much. So generous of you for those super chats. We're up to nearly 2,600 of you here live with us. We're going to get into that rapid fire in about 5 minutes. Thank you so much for being here. That thumbs up button, the likes, the shares, the retweets. It is so great and helpful for us, and we would love to have any new people. Seeing a lot of new names in the chat today. Please consider hitting that subscribe button, helping us as we climb towards 5K. We'd love to have you here long-term for our Thursdays and Sunday shows. And down the road in the future, once dad life isn't quite so crazy, I always used to do a waiver wire show, and I will definitely get back on that as things slow down and we find our groove here. But it's nice to have that time with the daughter right now. But once she's at practices and that type of stuff, I'd love to get the waiver wire show going. So we'd love to have you subscribe. Please consider that. And I am actually at Roto Street Wolf as well on Twitter if you're following on YouTube. And all of this content is at rotostreetjournal.com, including my rankings, which will be updated live after this show based on all these hit starts we've been weighing today. All right, standard 10-man league. Start 1 tight end. Pitts, Schultz, Theo Johnson, Fannin, Jawan Johnson, Noah Fant, Loveland. A lot of options here. I like Pitts then Schultz. Those are the 2 I would limit this down to. And I'd go Pitts myself very slightly over Schultz. They're my tight end 10 and 11, Scansy. Very, very close, but Pitts in that Miami matchup, very tasty. Willie G, good to see you, sir. Morning Wolf, start Dowdle or Debo? That's a good one. I'm going to go with Dowdle. Again, a lot of questions on Dowdle today. And I've said Dowdle on most of them just because he's playing such lights out ball. And it's ultimately just great matchup for the guy, too. I think they got to lean into him. If they have any shot today, it's Dowdle just bleeding clock and pounding out the Bills. I like Dowdle. Schultz, Taylor, or Otton for Jeff Sandy. I believe you super chatted this one, and I told you I ranked them Otton, then Schultz, then Taylor in a full PPR. Dowdle versus Kittle PPR. I'm going to stick with Dowdle. I mean, it's National Tight End Day. It feels like a Kittle 2-touchdown eruption, but Houston is a very tough matchup. He's coming off a goose egg. It makes me a little hesitant. I won't lie, Sven. So I'm going to go Dowdle on that one. Didn't anyone else notice that London picked up a late week injury? How far does Mooney go? So I did pick that up, and I bumped down Drake London a couple spots because of it, below Ibuka, below Devonta Smith. The good news is that game happens at 1 o'clock, so we'll know beforehand. If London was ruled out, we can play that hypothetical. Where would Mooney go to? I think Mooney would then rank at my wide receiver 21, ahead of Zay Flowers, Stephon Diggs, and Waddle. So, yeah, he would shoot up the rankings quite a bit. As of now, I think London's going to go, but Chris, it's a good thing to think about for sure. And we talked about that at the beginning. But the hypothetical Mooney rise would be about 10 more spots, and I already like him a lot this week. Michael DeGangi, Lamar out again, Caleb, or dare I say it, Cousins. Gotten that one a few times. I do continue to ride Caleb in this one. We just have no idea what Cousins is going to look like. It wasn't pretty the last time he was out there, but he is a year removed from the surgery. So I do like Cousins. I sneaky have a good feeling about him today, throwing for like 2 or 3 touchdowns. We saw with Flacco last week, these guys on their last legs that want to get some juice out there. When else am I going to play Kirk Cousins' legacy game? It's in the realm of possibility, but I think it's far more likely this team is just pounding and pounding and pounding the rock. With, of course, Bijan and Tyler Algier. And you still might get like Cousins getting 2 scores, but it's 190 yards, and it's a very meh day. So I like Caleb Williams. That game does appeal a lot less to me now, given there's no Lamar. I thought it was a game environment that I was going to be really intrigued by. But I got to go Caleb Williams there myself. Kincaid or Otton? I got to go Kincaid as long as he's in. I know he's questionable today, but I'm playing Kincaid if he is in. He's been very, very solid, and the Panthers are a top 3 matchup for tight ends. So give me Kincaid, assuming he is in, and if not, Otton's a great pivot. Kirk or Fields for the prodigy? I'm going Fields. I love the rushing upside today against Cincinnati. He's much riskier. I think Kirk is a safer bet to get you at least 10, whereas Fields might get you negative. But Fields also might win you your week and get you 30. And against Cincy, that's the type of matchup where we see him typically do that. If London doesn't go, do I go Shaheed, Algier, or Brashard Smith? I think that one's Algier still. And if Algier doesn't go, you're going to go to Shaheed in that case. But I just think that ground game is going to absolutely dominate this team. Kamara or Flowers at the flex? I would go with Kamara with the quarterback question marks now, Tyler. Would have been a no-brainer Flowers if Lamar was playing, but for now, ride that volume with Kamara is my take. Dak or May, we've gotten this one twice, and I keep going back and forth, and I ultimately settled on Dak. I think that game has a much better, the Broncos versus the Cowboys feels like a much better bet for, it's close, they're going at each other. I mean, maybe the Cowboys get blown out. That would be the worst-case scenario for Dak if it's like to the point they bench him, but I don't think it'll get that bad. I like Dak. May versus the Browns just feels like a get in, get it done, get out type of spot. Man, they're so good, though. 2 MVP players right now, Tyler. But I go Dak. It's quarterback 6 and 7. Couldn't be closer. Kickers are people, too, reminds us Giuseppe Russo. Do I start McPherson or Badgley? I go McPherson, I guess, of those. Yeah, kickers are people. Higgins or Metcalf? I go Metcalf, lethal mark. I just think Aaron Rodgers is going to want to go berserk tonight, so we shall see. Mooney or Schultz? I go Mooney in that one. A.J. Pierce, especially if London's ruled out, but even if not, him and Cousins have always had that rapport. Steelers defense is completely pitiful, Paul Wilson. I agree. So I think tonight's matchup should be a real fun one. Bears, Bills, or Bengals D for Coach Zeke. I'm going with the Bills against Carolina off a bye week. They always seem to come out firing their 8-0 off byes under McDermott, and the defense usually tightens up. So we'll see that run D is pretty sketchy, but I'm going to go with the Bills there. And folks, we are about 15 minutes left. 2,700 of you here. I am going to set the timer now. I'll hit the start button in just a second after I finish reminding you guys that rotostreetjournal.com for all of our content, my rankings. Wrote up Gadsden before Thursday night. That worked out well. But all the rankings, all the sleepers, the streamers, the waiver wires, we have such good writers. And again, the rankings are always free at rotostreetjournal.com. One last call for a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. A like, a subscription would be so greatly appreciated on YouTube. The heart button, the retweet on Twitter, so nice as well. We're going to go rapid fire mode here for the last 15 minutes. Let's do it, folks. All righty, 15 minutes start now. I am going to go Metcalf over Higgins for Lethal Mark Z. Start 1 PPR, Franklin, Jennings, or Coleman. I like Franklin in that Denver versus Dallas matchup. Hunt is playing. Yep, exactly. That's why it's also a little nerve-wracking to play Brashard Smith or Pacheco now. I've given up hopes on Mason Taylor. Hey, I don't blame you at all. So Schultz catches last week in that spot. We got Nico out. Give me Schultz. Fair enough, old-fashioned. Kirk out also. Yeah, they're going to pepper him. A lot of talk about him. Schultz, yeah, he's going to get some targets today. There's no doubt. So please, I'm going to put you in timeout. Lethal, you've been repeating your question time and time again. That's very annoying. May or Jones? I would go with Drake May for sure there over Mac Jones. JCM or RJ Harvey? Give me JCM, Mr. Greg Mack. Michael Kuchar, Jennings, T. Johnson, or Dunze? Definitely going a Dunze there. We did get a super chat, so we'll pause the rapid fire for my man, Kevin Rice. He got boned with AJB, and he needs a fill-in Debo, Pierce, or Watson. Got to be Debo, baby. Got to be Debo. Top, 15 wide receiver in points per game when active. Mariota's certainly not that bad of a backup. You got Pierce now. Josh Downs is back in. Watson, you can't trust this guy the first game back. He might play 3 snaps. It's Debo by a mile here, Kevin Rice. Thank you so much for the super chat, good sir. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. And then we were at Mooney. No, we were at JCM, RJ Harvey, Jennings, Tez Johnson, or Dunze was a Dunze. Mooney or Noel or Downs. It is Mooney for me, Carlos. MDK9W. Have Achane, Judkins, Kamara starting in flex. Would you start Tez in flex over? Nope, I would not. I'd keep those running backs in. Drop Falcons D and play Broncos. I think you super chat that, Nate Easy, and I would drop the Broncos and roster JCM. Dowdle, Pacheco, or Henderson for Jose Gomez. I would be going with Dowdle there. Tim Cox, good morning. Needs 1 PPR. Tez or Romeo Dobbs? I go Tez. Bears or Pats D? I go with the Pats D there, Coach Zeke, no doubt about it. B. Diggs, Wandale, or Kamara? I would go with Kamara. Woody Marks or Bill PPR? I would go with Bill Charisma Jack. Gamer Level Dad. Pick 2 for 8-team PPR. Pittman, Robinson, Waddle. I would be benching Waddle there. And I would be picking up McLaurin, but I wouldn't be starting him right now. But I would go with Pittman, and I'd go with Waddle as my starters there. How long should I wait to decide if I can stand Golden? That urine golden shower is not feeling very good these days, Jose. But I keep going back to him myself. Ugh. Would starting both Tez and Igbuka be a risk? I'd go with Kamara in that case. And then you got the game environment going back and forth there to MDK9W. Thank you, French Bulls, again for asking about the girl dad life. I'm glad you understand as well. There's nothing better. There's been nothing better in my life than that. Who's a good running back wide receiver stash before week 9? Al, I think it is Brashard Smith is kind of my stash of the week. That's the guy I am stashing everywhere. You think I should start Danny Dimes? Thank you so much, Ted Wilder, for the super chat. Danny Dimes or Bo Nix? Great options, both in my top 10, both in my top 8, Ted. But I'm going to go with Bo Nix. You got that Dallas matchup. It doesn't get any juicier than facing the Dallas defense. And Bo Nix fresh off a 40-point day, too. I like Daniel Jones. His matchup against Tennessee is juicy. He should be getting into the end zone, in my opinion. But ultimately, I got to go with that Dallas matchup, the hot hand here with Bo Nix. Even if it only was like one good quarter, it was a 40-point quarter, and it was juicy as anything. All righty. And again, Brashard Smith would be my running back stash this week. Tez or Goedert? I would go with Goedert. I have that same exact decision, M. Marcus, and I'm going to go with Goedert myself. Week 9 stash drop. Myers, pick up night off waivers. Yeah. Okay. I don't know what you're asking. Tex or Goedert is going with Goedert because I know you're going Tez there. Yeah, I go Goedert over Tez. Jose Rodriguez, Io Manor, Downs, Mims, Coleman Jennings, and Malik Washington on waivers. Which of these can I lift for Judy? I would go with Downs of those options. Mims would be the next closest, much higher ceiling because of that Dallas matchup, but I like the Downs floor that one, American education. Oh, Scansy. Adunze or Tet? I'm going to go with Adunze Alpha Gator. Um, I love the getting correction here. Education. Spelling American education system wrong, an old fashioned correction. I'm going to go May over Daniel Jones. And we had a very, very generous super chat. The Godfather. Thank you so, so much for this one. Let me pause and slow down with a very generous $20 coming in here. Two quarterback super flex leagues. Pick 2 QBs to start out of each league. Cousins, Mac Jones, Rattler, or Huntley. I'm going to go with Cousins and Mac Jones in that one. You got Mac Jones averaging well over 300 yards per game per start here. I know last week was a tough one, but that Atlanta defense is just truly elite. And then I'm going to go with Cousins as the other option. I love the matchup against Miami. I love the kind of same Flacco vibe to I got to start and I'm going to make the most of it. I think Cousins could come in there and try to chuck in for 3 or so touchdowns there. Rattler and Huntley both have bench risk, especially Rattler after how bad he looked last week with all those turnovers. And Huntley, I know he's done it in the past a couple times here or there. That's a huge risk, in my opinion. Cousins and Mac Jones, you know they're starting the full game unless they get hurt, and you know that they can sling it. So I'm going to go with Cousins and Mac Jones, Godfather, for the first one. For the next one, Cousins, Love, Dart, Rattler. That's a lot tougher. Now we're in Huntley territory. Still taking Rattler out of the equation because, again, I am worried about him potentially getting benched. I think he's been playing actually surprisingly decent ball. But last week was turnover city. It just worries me a lot. I'm going to go with Dart and Love in this one. Dart, quarterback 3 in back-to-back games, including tough matchups. Quarterback 3 the last time he faced the Eagles. I get that idea of like, oh, you're facing the same opponent twice in 3 weeks. It does make me a little bit more worried for him, no doubt. But he's been running all over the place. So you have the leg points. He's slinging it, the cannon arm. He just has that it factor, Dart. I believe he's like quarterback 7 in fantasy points since becoming a starter. Love the guy. And then you got Jordan Love against a completely butt cheeks Pittsburgh defense, giving up a ton of big plays. I think Rodgers on the other side of things is going to want to shoot out. You saw that Flacco versus Rodgers Thursday night shootout just a couple weeks ago. I can certainly see Jordan Love. I want to prove I'm better than the guy I took over for. Rodgers saying I want to prove that you guys suck. So yeah, I love Jackson Dart. I love Jordan Love for those ones. And if London is out, do I start Fannin, Hollywood, or Hunt in the flex? Very tough there. I'd probably go with Fannin with Njoku out. That's where I would lean there. Thank you again so much, Godfather. I would go, again, Cousins, Mac Jones. Then I would go Love and Dart. And then if you had to pick one of these guys to start in the flex, it would be Fannin for me. Thank you so much. And another super chat coming in. You guys are so kind and so generous. G. Medina, we got 8 minutes left as well of the rapid fire. If you want a guaranteed answer, the super chat is the way to do it. But 3,000, we've hit the 3,000 mark. Last call for that thumbs up button on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter, the likes, the shares, the retweets. It all helps us grow. And these rankings will be live at rotostreetjournal.com after the show. They're already live, but you'll see the fresh update after the stream. G. Medina, Swift, Dowdle, or Marks. It's 110% Swift if he's in. Great matchup against Baltimore. Back-to-back running back 1 games, over 110 yards in both. He's looking phenomenal, and the matchup couldn't be juicier. So I'd rank them Swift, then Dowdle, then Marks is exactly how I have that ranked. So if Swift is ruled out, G. Medina, you can pivot to Dowdle. But I like Swift the most here. And then Rodgers or Caleb. We've gotten that a couple times. I think everybody wants that Rodgers revenge narrative. I do like it, but I'm still going to go with Caleb Williams. He's just been playing solid ball all year. The Ravens defense is a top 5 matchup for quarterbacks for really every position. They're pathetic. They're welcoming back some players. I get it. I know the game environment probably won't be as fun with no Lamar. It probably won't be. But I just still lean to Caleb Williams in this one. So give me Swift. Give me Caleb. Maybe they connect on a receiving touchdown there for you, G. Medina. Thank you so much. And Preston Clazette, PPR. Start Alrighty, I don't know if any of you guys are still here. I had 5 minutes left. The internet crashed. I just did the whole unplug, replug router thing. I don't know if anybody's still here, but we did have a couple super chats, and I wanted to make sure to get to those if they are still here. Preston, you being the latest one. I'm going to restart the timer for another 5 minutes. It was at 3 minutes, but then it crashed. So let me just reset that for 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up here with a rapid fire. Thank you guys. Sorry about those lag issues. Again, I ran downstairs, unplugged, replugged, did all that. It looks like some of you are still here, so I greatly appreciate that as well. Thank you so much for hanging around. Preston Classat, PPR, start a wide receiver and flex. Ingram, Judy, Bourne, Mims, or Io Manor. I would be going with Bourne as the first option in here. Mac Jones's boy, and ultimately no Ayuk, no, we got Jennings back, sure, but Ricky Pearsall was ruled out as well, and so we got Kendrick Bourne in that spot. He had 140 yards in back-to-back games, busted last week, tough matchup though. That Falcons defense shuts down everybody. I know Kittle being back does make this a little sketchier, but give me Bourne as my favorite here, and then I like going to Mims as the next better option. Ingram might be safer, upside, sure, or volume bet rather. But Mims ultimately the upside swing here. Bad Cowboys defense, giving up tons and tons of big plays. So I like going with Mims. Go for the upside swing here. That feels just like a 20-point, 20-point just blow up spot right there. It looks like we got a lot of people sticking it out too. So I greatly appreciate that. And thank you again so much. 30 super chats and G Medina asking flex, Judkins, Dowdle, Higgins, Dobbs, Goedert. I got to go with Judkins. Very tough Patriots defense. They have not given up more than 50 yards to a single rusher, but I still think he's a great bet to find the end zone. Now, if this is T. Higgins, though, I actually probably would go T. Higgins. Jayden Higgins versus T. Higgins has to be clarified on a day where Nico Collins is out, but I imagine that is actually T. Higgins given the other options. And I like T. I really think that he finds the end zone. It was already a good matchup for wide receiver twos, and then you take out Sauce Gardner. It's an even worse defense as well. So give me T. Higgins of that one, slightly over Judkins, given that tough Patriots matchup there as well. All righty, we are back into our rapid fire mode here. It's looking like, unfortunately, a lot of the questions when it froze. I'm thinking about firing off on trading Jaylen Warren and Keenan for Henry. I like the trade. I'm just going to go rapid fire down what we have left for these last 3 minutes here. All righty. Which one can I leave? Running back, Mason or Jones Jr.? I'd rather cut Mason, I think, at this point, honestly. Critical flex in half PPR guillotine. Best options are McLaurin, Mooney, Downs, Taylor, Bourne, or any Titans-Texans wide receiver. If London sits, which is a real possibility, does Mooney move to the top? He absolutely does. I think McLaurin's my favorite option, but if it's only about safety, I think Mooney might be the safest, even with London, and he's got that rapport with Kirk Cousins, but especially if he's out, Mooney would be the top one for sure. Fannin or Otton, I'm going Otton there for sure. Zay Flowers or Wan'Dale Robinson, I would be going with Flowers very slightly over Robinson. I think Huntley is going to be a big upgrade. McBride must have more. 42 targets, last 4 for McBride. Yeah, exactly. It's got to be more than Evan Ingram. Thank you, Chris Baines, for the clarification. Another tight end parlay for CJ, Kittle, Henry, Otton, plus 2-1-3-3. Not bad. I like all three of those options as well. McBride has 15 more than Ingram and Goedert, who are tied for second. Yes, there you go. When I go for a couple drinks, I end up in Mexico for a few days. Good spot to have a couple drinks, no doubt about it. Yes, going to put it on the chalkboard. Thank you, and I'll let you know next time we back. Hell yeah, French Bulldogs. Let's go. Thank you again so much. Jackson Dart or Mariota. I would be going with Jackson Dart, Will Mack, quarterback 3 in back-to-back games. Absolute stud. Tight end targets last 4 games. McBride, 42. Ingram, 27. Goddard, 27. Ferguson, 26. Fannin. Yes, I mean, even being second is impressive for Ingram that I would not have expected. He just hasn't done anything with it, though. One top 12 performance out of being second in targets does not scream efficient and somebody I need in my lineup. Flacco, yes, let's go. Full PPR flex, Jennings, Loveland, Isaiah Davis, please and thank you. Thank you, Tom Jackson, for the kind manners. I would be going with, I think, Loveland. I actually think he blows up today. Unless Breece Hall was surprisingly ruled out, I'm going to go with Loveland This is the coming out party today. Sleepy Joe, let's go. Fusion V. Egbuka, D. Smith. That means my wide receivers 6 and 7. I love them both. I would go Egbuka, I think. How do you not have both those guys in, though? Somehow, figure out a way. 2 top 7 wide receivers for me, good sir. Money League, Hurts or Mahomes? I'm going to go with Mahomes on that one. Very, very tough calls, though. Great options. Trade one of them, good sir. Zay Flowers or Wan'Dale Robinson? I go with Flowers. Warren or Kittle? I'm going to go with Warren for sure. Thank you, sir. Like and subscribe. Indeed, Scansy. And that is the timer, but I'm going to give you guys just an extra couple minutes because of those technical difficulties. Just subscribe. Thank you so much. Shout NJ. Would love to have more of you subscribe. Let's just fire up again a couple more minutes because of those technical difficulties. And you guys still being here, I greatly appreciate it. Wolf, tough man. Tough last week. Lost by 10 for putting Genti instead of Scatabo. Oh, brutal. So we got Flex, Olave, Rico, Judkins, or Chase Brown. I'm going to go with Olave on this one in a full PPR. I think that would be the play for me. Here we go. Wan'Dale. So some people are helping answer each other. How do we feel about Christian Watson coming back? I think it's a good stash. Would not be starting him. Right? Start 2. Judy, Bourne, Mims, Io, Manor. I think you super chat this one, and we went Bourne and Mims there. Who wins, Cowboys or Broncos? I'm going Broncos, but I think it's going to be a fun one. Good morning, boss. Do you think I should start Danny Dimes or Bo Nix? It's Bo Nix for me. Wan'Dale or Mooney? I'm going to go with Wan'Dale unless London is ruled out. Then I switch. Flex spot, full PPR, Io, Noel, or Fannin. I would go with Fannin in that one. Manungai or McLaurin? I'm going to go with McLaurin there. Don't forget, it's more lethal to hold in a fart than to release it. Good to know. Tet or Dobbs? I would be going with Tet on that one for sure. Leggett or Theo Johnson? I go Leggett. Manungai or McLaurin, kind sir? I'd be going McLaurin. Morning flex spot, Kincaid or Tex? I would be going with Tez. I think I go Kincaid, actually. Manungai or Scary Terry? I'm going Scary Terry on that one. I might have to put you in timeout for all the repeats. Rico or Woody? I'm definitely going Rico on that one. Which one can I leave? Running back, Mason, or I would cut Mason. Elick, Io, Manor, Troy Franklin, Kayshawn Booty? I would be going with Franklin with that Cowboys matchup. So opinions are pricey nowadays. I do appreciate the super chats. It's certainly not required, but it does cut you in front of the line. If you're willing to pay for the support, I am willing to bump you up into the line. As people said, it did crash for sure. I appreciate everybody that sat it out with me and hung out for it. Falcons, Bears, or Chiefs? I would be going with the Falcons today against Miami. That football is way too smooth. Imagine Kyle trying to throw in a smooth end. The answer to that one on the screen, I'm playing the lottery with Mims. I do like Mims and the upside. I like Mims for the lotto, but Judy's got I don't like Judy at all. I won't lie. Wan'Dale Robinson or D Swift? I love DeAndre Swift, the way he's been cooking. I was in the middle. It crashed. I got the Wi-Fi fixed. Thank you guys again so much for your patience. There he is. I am here, Robbie. Thank you so much. If not against the Cowboys, when for Mims? I think exactly is my thoughts as well. Start 3, full PPR. Warren, Green Bay, White, Dobbins, Dallas, Dowdle versus Buff. I like Dobbins. I like Judkins, and I like Dowdle. Dobbins, Judkins, Dowdle. I'd be benching Warren. Appreciate you, Preston. Thank you. What's a wolf without his back? We're here. Hell yeah. You guys are the best. Definitely Mims if you get points for return yards. That's true as well. T. Yep. So I'd like T in that one. Thank you, G. Medina, for those super chats. Pitts or Fannin? I'm going with Pitts. Any confidence in ILL today? Worried. I don't know who ILL is. Bill. I am not overly confident. It's a tough matchup on Monday Night Football versus the Chiefs. I do think he's taken over that role, though, which is good. But I do not want to have to start him if I don't have to. But it's a buy him again. You might. Tez or Downs? I'm definitely going Tez. Love Tez Johnson. And last one, Mason and buys have screwed me. Jennings or Kraft? As much as I hate starting 2 tight ends, it's tight end week, baby. That's a great way to end it, Jay Simpson. National Tight End Day. You're going 2 tight ends. Kraft and Warren. I'm doing the same thing in one of my leagues. I absolutely love it. I was about to sign off, but my man Levi C. I cannot leave you hanging here with a super chat. You are a legend, Levi C. Great to see you. Hey, Wolf, to start 3 PPR. Pickens, Franklin, Worthy, Noel. It's crazy to think Noel will get more targets than Worthy, so bench Worthy of the 3. Not too crazy to think, but I would not be benching Worthy for Jalen Noel. I know we got no Nico. I know we got no Christian Kirk, and that's where I do like Noel. He's going to slide into that high percentage slot role, which is very intriguing because, CJ Stroud is not taking shots these days, much more dink or dunk. That being said, I got to go Worthy and Pickens. Always start your studs. And then it comes down to Franklin or Noel to me. And I feel like I kind of want Franklin in that Dallas matchup. If Noel is intriguing you, by all means, I think if you're going to bench one of them, it'd be Franklin for Noel. Those are the two you should be deciding between, Levi. I go Franklin myself. The Dallas matchup is just too juicy. But if you wanted to get Noel in there, I think Franklin's the one you bench, not Worthy. Just too talented to put on your bench. Thanks for all you do, brother. Everyone needs to like and subscribe. Thank you so much. Last question. Chuba's on my waivers. Still go with Olave in the flex. Absolutely proud to be part of the Wolfpack. Thank you so much, the Neganist. I do go Olave well ahead of Chuba Hubbard, no doubt about it. And that was the final 5 minutes. Golden or Coleman or Leggett. I go Golden for the big play tonight. But guys, thank you again for all of you who stuck out those technical difficulties. Sorry about the internet crash. That hasn't happened yet, and I apologize that it had to happen midstream, but I'm glad we got to your super chat there, Preston. So kind of you. And everybody else, 37. We almost got to another 4K again today. Unbelievable. You guys are the best. On your way out, just hitting that thumbs up button. Of course, any new people here that would like to subscribe, we'd love to have you long-term. 31 super chats, so kind and so generous. That freeway on the way out is that thumbs up button. And these rankings will be all live and updated at rotostreetjournal.com with everything that we talked about today, all the new news coming in, Mooney getting a big bump up, all those new updates will be there at rotostreetjournal.com. Thank you again so much, guys, for spending your Sunday mornings with me. I love doing this. I love seeing you all. Wonderful day. Best of luck in your matchups. And a world full of fancy sheep, be the wolf and check out rotostreetjournal.com, baby. See you guys.